Finance Committee to order at 6 p.m. I'm gonna ask everybody in the room, turn your phone to silent. Be respectful, I know everybody's got an agenda or wants to speak, would love to have you speak. At midnight, I'm shutting down, so hopefully it's done before then. And as long as everybody's respectful, we'll all get along good. I don't wanna sick Doug Briggs on you, so. We're all good.
Alright, I guess I'll call the meeting to order. What time is it?
It's 6:01.
6:01.
And we'll call the select board to order as well. And we do not have a flag, can we do the pledge of allegiance?
You can get a flag.
There is no flag in here.
Justin's looking for one.
All right. Just on fire,
Up
so
on the
flag. Stinking Marine should be able to find it. Navy guy can find it in a minute. The Marines will be lost. There's no crayons around it.
I gonna go without.
Should we sing all along?
We
See
can.
anything in the
What's that?
I don't know. What are we gonna sing?
I think it's coming.
That's the one to find it, but I think it's missed one.
We can grab the one. There we go, we got one.
Alright.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are very cozy tonight and we have a very full house. I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us at this specially scheduled, pretty much a tri-board meeting. With a special thanks to the Board of Assessors for making time. This is absolutely not their regular meeting time and we really appreciate their willingness to join us. The group that you are looking at around this table sort of represents the full span of town government that manages your tax dollars, from setting the tax rate and assessing your property to providing the means and protocols for abatement and exemptions, and then the creation of and the oversight of the voter-approved town budget with those collected tax dollars. I think the only people we don't have in attendance tonight are our professional staff. That's with great thanks to Amy Evanowski and our treasurer collector Nick George for all of the very hard work that they do.
And honestly,
Amy's here. Amy's right in front of me. Thank you, Amy. No matter what happens in the next few weeks, I think we all know how important it is that Rutland residents have access to whatever information they want or need, answers to the questions they have, particularly on their tax dollars, and that Rutland is constantly working together and exploring ways to make sure that all of the tax dollars are being spent responsibly and that we are offering them every option possible. I just want to note one housekeeping item. As you saw, each board called itself to order. Each board may also choose to adjourn at any time, and that would be noted later in the minutes. First thing on our agenda tonight is the Board of Assessors. It's so wonderful to have them here tonight, and I think we just wanted to start the conversation with kind of a high-level explanation, and I know you all went through this before town meeting as well, about what your office offers.
We have a very robust exemption program. Currently, we have 121 exemptions for the residents of the town. There is we could do some things to try to increase that number. I just draw your attention to the back 2 pages of some of the things that we can do. I put this packet together and you can all look at it in your own time. If you have any questions, you can contact me at my office. I just thought more information was better.
why don't you just hit some of the highlights on
Yes.
maybe some of the suggestions we could do.
So we could increase the senior work-off program from 10 seats to 15 seats.
So we had 12 people apply, but we could only allow 10. So it would be nice to go to 15 and get a few more. And we also, the veterans, we have 10 seats, but we only got
Two.
2 people applying. So there's opportunities there for people that are veterans that qualify for that work-off.
We could also increase the amount that they're given. The $750 is currently, and Medicaid comes out of that, so they're getting around $670 for their work. We can increase that amount up to $2,000. Of course, if we were to increase it, the board would decide about how much. Just for an example, right now, as it is, our $7,500 comes out of the overlay. If we increased it to $1,500, then it would increase the overlay amount to $22,500.
And that's increasing those seats from 10 to 15.
Yes, yes. So we have an overlay account, which is where all these abatements and exemptions are drawn out of.
Can you explain where the overlay account comes from? Because I think that it would be helpful for us to know that that is still an appropriation.
The overlay account in Rutland actually comes from the new growth. We have, as far as I know, as far as I have been here, that money has come out of the new growth amount that we've been raising. Last year it was 400, and we had taken out 105, and then so if you look at there is an explanation of the overlay. So this fund establishes it's for exemptions, abatements, and uncollectible, as well as any pending cases at the ATB. That's over the Board of Assessors. That's where you go to in the state if you have discrepancies about your value. Municipality, this acts as a buffer to ensure unexpected tax adjustments and not to disrupt town cash flow. The overlay is monitored every year by the state and as well as the assessors. So every year I have to fill out a tax worksheet, and they ask you for what the exemptions and the abatements were granted for. Over the past 5 years, it's been averaged out to $90,000, a little over. And the state calculated our future potential liabilities as $154,639.63. So they tell us the minimum amount that we need to keep in there. So this year it was 154. Anything over that amount is surplus. Anything under that amount would have we would create an overlay deficit, which would actually have to be raised in the tax rate to find those funds or appropriated. This is where the exemptions come out of. Only the ones that are provided by the state are reimbursed by the state. All the other options, which are local options, have to be voted on at town meeting through the articles that are written. Those are not reimbursed. If you look at,
Such as the work-off,
such as the work-off,
a crumbling foundation issue.
yes, and any other local option that we vote in. So I have a picture here of what we put in for the state. We put all the exemptions in, we put the amount that it costs us, and the amount that the state reimburses us. So this year, we put in $72,580 worth of exemptions. The state reimburses us $48,144. So it's not dollar for dollar, it's a percentage of it. And then if you look at the next page after that, it is the total breakdown from the state is on there, how much they reimburse exactly. So back to the last 2 pages, the next exemptions that we could do are veterans exemptions, which are I and J. The I exemption would increase with the COLA amount that is provided by the state as well. It's 2.7% this year, the COLA will increase. This is the 41C, and also it will be the 22I if we did accept it. So I've given you an example. Straight 22s get $400 off their tax bill a year, If we increased it by the 2.7%, that would be another $10.80. So they get to take $410.80 off their tax bill. Also, the same thing with the 22Es, they receive $1,000 a year. If we increase it by 2.7%, then that goes to $1,029.10. 22J is an additional exemption that can increase the exemption amount up to 100%, which essentially doubles that exemption. So, in the same aspect, if they're 22s are receiving $400 exemptions, then they, with this passing a local option, they can get $800 off their tax bill. And the same thing with the 22Es. This has to be voted on. The percentage of which it's gonna increase has to be voted on. And then these also can be used in conjunction. They can have the increase with the COLA and get their amount doubled up to 100%. There is something called a residential exemption that I do bring up every the classification hearing that would shift the tax burden onto the second home population. This is just not feasible for this town. There's only 31 houses in town that are classified as second homes. There's also an affordable housing property tax exemption that is established this year, which provides property exemptions for property owners who rent out their property. There is no specifications for this because it's a local option. We have to decide the qualifications and what other stipulations would need to be attached to this, such as the rental rate, the income threshold, and an amount for an exemption. And lastly, the senior means test, which allows seniors who receive the circuit tax breaker credit to receive a town exemption. This is also a local property tax relief, which is not done per age, as the 41C, which we already have in place, age and income and asset limits. This one is just income and asset limits. So unlike the age exemption, the means test program is designed to help low to moderate income seniors on a fixed budget. Basically, they don't pay more than 10% of their income in property taxes. But this would also, we'd have to create our own requirements for this program.
And the other thing is, somebody can get the state exemption, but also do the work off and get
Yes.
both.
Yes.
Any questions with that riveting information?
May I ask a clarification, if I may? If I understand correctly, we currently are putting $72,580, and the state is reimbursing us $48,144.50, or $48,144.50. That means that we essentially, as taxpayers, are contributing $24,435.50. Any of these additional options would increase the amount that taxpayers
Yes.
are funding those abatements.
Yes.
And I just wanted to be clear
Yes.
that this isn't a one-for-one
No.
No.
from the state or anything, that it's that we as a community are funding a portion, a
That's why I included the first page, because
Yeah.
it says exactly that. It's, if they're shared without, people who do not have exemptions, that is spread out over the rest of the population of the town.
And those local exemptions are increasing, so that number is becoming bigger as time goes on.
and it still has, and it still has to fit within our levy capacity. So if we're looking at staying within the 2.5, this still has to be within the 2.5, because that's revenue that is then that we have to raise and appropriate to
But we don't,
for those expenses.
if we had to raise and appropriate, it would have to be in the budget, but because it comes out of the new growth, which results in free cash, that is not considered.
But that would, because it comes out of new growth, then that diminishes our new growth
Yes,
revenue
yes,
on the
yes.
Yes.
And free cash.
Yeah. Thank you.
You may have mentioned this, but I might have missed it. Are these things that the Board of Assessors can decide to implement as policies, or do they need approval at town meeting, or is there any kind of mix there?
We would need approval at town meeting, we would need to write an article, bring it to town meeting, have it a vote, approval vote for those to be in place.
I don't think so.
I mean, obviously, we heard so much this spring, and we've been through the whole town so much, we've been hearing from so many people. We're not holding you to anything tonight, we know you have to meet about this. Do you feel we are at a place where we can and should be adding to our programs, or are we in a situation where we're doing the best we can right now with what we have? And that's, I know that's a very tough question, so.
I think there's a huge unknown with these additional programs and especially the crumbling foundations and things like that. We don't know where that's going.
That's also in the packet. I just wanted to have something in here to show you guys that we had met as a assessing board and the select board, and we were asked to put something in place with the crumbling foundations issue that's happening throughout the town. To date, we've lost $1 million in value from that program, and it's gonna keep growing, unfortunately. So we have to think about that too.
Lou?
Yeah, is there any sort of an incentive plan, this may sound dumb, but I don't think it is, anyway. An incentive plan that, to have people who want to give more money than their regular tax bill. Maybe they have some, they would like to help the town in a dire strait like this. Is there any kind of an incentive plan, something that could encourage them to, maybe put in another $1,000? Just a thought.
I had it doesn't really, I think it's a town thing, but I know Holden has their, an account for helping people that need help. I have no idea how much they collect every year, I don't know how much they give out, but I don't think we have anything like that where people can make a donation to help the needy or people that need extra help with certain criteria. Do we have anything like that?
We don't, and I could do some homework, but I think that it is not held by the town.
It is a,
It is a town
oh
account.
no, it's called something when I clicked on it.
Helping Hands.
Helping
Hands.
Hands.
So it's like the raft.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a raft
Yep.
program.
Yep.
Yeah, so
But it's helping
Our-
people in town.
our residents have access to that as well.
Do we publicize that?
Well, my thought is not just that, but that the extra money that someone would be willing to give, say, that goes through defraying the tax burden for that particular year. And there would have to be, I'm sure, some incentive, I don't know what the incentive would be, but has it ever been discussed, kicked around? It's foolish, forget about it. I understand the program to help people who are having difficulty, that's something like what we just been talking about. I understand that, I'm just talking about additional money that some people may wanna volunteer because they wanna help the town, and this is a way of doing it.
Towards the
And it brings down the tax burden. So if you raise $20,000 or $30,000, maybe I'm, sky in the pie in the sky stuff, but is it worth, into all of you experts up here, is it worth pursuing something like
We
that?
could look at it through MGL law, if they allow that. We could certainly look into it if they do, because everything we do is dictated by
Oh,
law.
I understand that, yeah, I know
Yeah.
I know that. That's okay, thank you. Well, it's just,
Sure.
to me, it's worth
Yeah.
worth a shot.
Yeah, I can let you know.
Question to the chair? Amy? I see here, there are two under 17D, surviving spouse, minors, or
Yes.
Do we have many surviving spouses that apply for benefits?
Not really, because that number is very low and I haven't sent anybody away. I think one time because their asset limit was too high.
Okay. But how many surviving spouses do we have in town? Do we know?
I don't have the statistics on that. I have two that have applied.
So all we would know is two.
Yeah.
See, well, the reason I'm saying it seems kind of low.
I encourage anybody who might be in that situation to please come and see me.
I'll start spreading the word.
Okay.
I just had one quick question. Under the veterans, do they have, it says retired veterans. Does that mean somebody that's, I guess the way to say it is, you're in the military 20 years and you retire, as opposed to somebody that might only be in 3 or 4 years and they're veterans still.
Yeah,
But they're not retired from the service.
I think what that means is retire from active duty,
Okay.
right? You're not enlisted right
But
currently.
not, so you didn't do the long-term and actually retired like a job retirement?
No, that's not what that means, actually.
Okay, all right.
And there's no disability that comes along with that. You're a young person or a non-affected person, where the other one from the state has to be just, they have to have a percentage of 10,
Yeah, that's
at
why I
least
was reading in
10%.
the front there, I had, okay, that's why I asked that, okay.
Follow-up question, under, 41C, certain elderly persons 70 years and over, there are 16. And if I go to 71C here, 41C, it says $500 per exemption in the last year. Well, if I take 16 times 500,
Because we've passed a local option for $1,000 that we
Okay.
give for seniors instead of 500.
so that goes to 1,000, okay. And of the veterans, do you know how many percent are qualified for the 1325 exemption, 22C?
Currently, we have nobody in 22C. We only have 22 and 22E. That, if we did, I would certainly help them, but we don't
Okay.
have anybody yet.
I will get to you to find out what those different categories are.
Certainly, it explains it in the exemptions that we have in town. We have A through F, and every single type is explained right here,
In
what
the sheet?
the qualifiers are.
Okay. All right.
This is for 26. I haven't worked up the numbers for 27 yet. That'll be
Okay.
done over the summer.
Is this the, if I turn to that page, is this the highest exemption that is allowed for us to go by? Single person, married person's 40,000, under income assets 75?
For the 41C, yes.
That's the most the state allows.
Yes, I increase it every year by whatever the state allows. And I
Okay.
have included that percentage in your packet.
And,
This year was 2.7.
and all of these follow the guidelines, so the town has no discretion to increase any of these.
No,
Okay.
unless if there was an option like the 41C, which we still would have had a written article for and voted on to get that approved.
41C. Okay, thank you.
Amy, are there things that this table or this room should take away from what you were telling us? How can we help? How should we proceed forward as we go through FY 27's budget or special town meeting or?
Talk to your neighbors, talk to your family if they live in town, if they qualify for any of these, or you think they might, have them sent to me and let me vet them out. Let me gather all their information. Let me help them in any way I can. If I can't, you know, and if I at least, you know, let them know about Karen if they haven't met her already as the veterans agent. You know, whatever we can do for folks and individuals, we do it. Believe me. I understand that, you know, the situation is difficult right now. I wanna do everything I can to help. You're welcome.
Jeff, quick question. Did they give you a reason, do you know a reason why veterans aren't applying for these positions? To get their work off?
I have no idea. I was surprised actually to see they're only two.
I can see Pride maybe as one, but that's why I was asking.
But we have a lot of veterans.
Yeah, we do.
Um,
Okay.
I've told them all this year when they come in with their excise tax bill, cause the 100%ers are exempt on one excise tax bill a year. I was like, we have the work off program, you need no qualifications other than being a veteran.
Okay.
I just want to say I retired from that position.
Oh.
There's a new person who
Oh,
took
thank
over.
you for letting me know.
So don't anybody come to me after.
Does anybody have any questions for the assessors in regards to available abatements and exemptions? really can't say enough how much we appreciate you doing this. I think this is important. I hope we can maybe do it once a year.
Absolutely.
check in and-
Appreciate being invited.
And if you all feel that we're moving towards a fall town meeting where your board wants to take action, let us know. To do some of the things that you mentioned tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Moving on in tonight's agenda, we're moving to the draft warrant for the special town meeting that was called for June 16th. Could I get a motion from the select board to close the warrant? Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor to close the warrant?
Wait, I,
Second, I,
No, no.
That's an
And did I, that's unanimous, thank you very much. We have quite a few people here, from the school district, actually. So, would the finance committee like to take the articles out of order since they are here and we're cozy in this room? Or do you wanna proceed with the articles as they stand?
Whatever you like, boss.
There's a lot of you here. If it's okay, we're gonna move to Article 2. That's to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds $524,161 to defray the expenses of the discretionary assessment portion of WRSD for the fiscal year beginning July 1. Can I get a motion to place Article 2?
So moved.
second.
Okay, is there any discussion? And could we get any input from the finance committee? Obviously, this is something you all discussed at great length, before annual town meeting, so I just wanna see where you are now
Well,
with that.
I'll make the statement as the finance committee chair. I think it's very unfortunate that we're losing 19 people from town. And I'd love to see the schools do whatever they can to help us out a little bit, because losing 19 people is only the tip of the iceberg, and next year it's gonna be more, so. I thank the school committee, the superintendent and all the people there for helping us out the best they could, but I can't in good conscience, and I don't think the finance committee, why we did what we did at the town meeting, I don't think we can take lightly the fact that we're gonna lose 19 people in various shapes, ways, or forms. And the school committee and the schools are not losing. They're not, maybe not doing what they were, but they're not losing 25% of their work staff. So I'm just saddened by that, and I know they tried, but I look around the room and I see several people that are gonna lose their jobs, and I think it stinks, so. That's it for me for right now, and I'm sure we can bring this around.
So just to give a little bit of history to our viewers, to anybody in the room, most people in the room know what's happening. The budget failed for the Wachusett Regional School District because Rutland and Paxton both failed it. School committee met on May 19th and presented a new number. That is a number that we need to address, and that's why we're here tonight. And it's why you're hearing a lower number than you heard at town meeting if you were there, which was, Darren, correct me if I'm wrong, was in the $660,000 range.
Correct.
So when they made their adjustments, our totals came down, just over $120,000. We can actually, Heather can obviously provide the exact dollar figures anytime anybody needs them. And would anyone from the school committee like to comment? They're all here.
Many of the school committee versus sorry,
Oh, it's entirely your call.
what would you prefer?
Oh, I'm happy to.
School district, thank you.
Sure, no problem. I think, you know, first I just wanna acknowledge, like, I think we all know how serious the situation is for our towns, and nobody wants any employees to be impacted during the budget season. I think I can speak or answer any questions people would like about the school budget. I think what we did is made a recommendation that any additional Chapter 70 funds that come to the district will be used to reduce town assessments, which was to the point, I think it was a total of about $550,000 or so. Some things I'd share in terms of what we put towards this year's budget, just so I want people to understand, we tried to go through pain points before we got to this point. This is the lowest budget in the last 10 years, with the exception of the COVID year. And so typically, you know, the school average in terms of increases in budget are about 4.5%, and this year it's 3.09%. I think the other thing that we did this year is we put more towards the budget to reduce town assessments than we ever have before. This year we're putting $2.6 million of revenue from the district to hopefully reduce town assessments. And again, that's more than we've ever been able to do before. And, you know, rightfully so. I think we're kind of caught in the same position as the towns. We're dealing with the state funding formula that severely punishes the Wachusett School District and all of our towns, Rutland, Paxton, Princeton, Sterling, and Holden. What I would like people to know is, even though, and I would certainly say that if you look at the surrounding towns, our increase is really smaller than what most towns are surrounding us. And so just a quick 10 towns in the surrounding areas and what their budget increases are. Ash West is slower than us. They're at 2.9%. North Middlesex is a little bit lower than us. They're at 3.06%. We're at 3.09. Neshoba's at 3.34. Tantasc was at 3.69. Westboro's at 4.17. Shrewsbury's at 4.5. Leominster's at 4.73. Algonquin's at 5.81. Fitchburg's at 5.92. And Grafton's at 6.2. And I only offer that just to show that a lot of school districts are struggling at this time, and the increases they had are actually even larger than the increases we're put forward. I think the last.
Uncomfortable.
Excuse me, sorry.
No, it's no problem. I think the other thing I'd want to share is, even though our increase, and I realize it's more than 3%, and I was just trying to give some context in terms of what other towns are dealing with as well. What's probably most noteworthy is where we're starting from. And so we received,
And I don't care if it
every year we do year-end reporting. And so basically we submit our financials to the state, and then they provide reports back to us. And so we received those last week. You received them? And so out of the 264 school districts that submitted end of the year reporting, Wachusett was 235th in what we spend per student. Okay? So there are only 28 districts that spend less money than we do per student. And I'm certainly not complaining about that, because I feel like we make our budget work. And I'm very thankful for the support of Rutland and all of the towns in supporting our school budget. But I offer that because we're already starting at a place that's very low, okay? We spend less than $3,400, about less than the state average per student. And so we're already at an incredibly low level. And so to take more of that from the budget that already is quite low, when you look at it in the context of the state, that's why it's so hard for us to look at reductions. And then what I would also share with you, just so people know, is we make reductions every year. Okay, when we look at the changes that we make across the district, every year we're asking ourselves, what positions don't we need? And there are 12 of them this year. And we try to do it through retirees and other positions, but we do ask ourselves every year, is this a position that we need? Sometimes, to be transparent, we're saying, well, we need this position now, so we're gonna replace it with that. But we do go through that process every year. And sometimes, in this case, two people we're cutting who actively have positions. And so I would wanna share that it's not every year we are looking at the numbers we have, we are asking ourselves, do we need that classroom? And we are making our decisions. But I know it's not easy, and I respect the fact that it goes to the citizens and people will have to vote, and they may not support the school budget, and I understand that's part of the process. And I respect, honestly, the select board. I personally don't think there was any kind of gamesmanship at the town meeting. I think people were trying to say, look, if this passes, this will be the impact. It is important, though, I would say from my perspective, that the school budget gets voted on for what it was approved by the school committee, and to leave that in the hands of the voters and let them make that decision. And so I'm happy if anybody has, specific questions that they'd like to ask, I can answer them or provide additional details if folks would like.
Sheila, sorry.
Go for it. No, I just announced you.
Yes, so that's what I was gonna do. Sorry, I didn't want to step in front of the district administration. My name is Linda Woodland. I'm the chair of the Wachusett Regional School Committee this year. I'm a resident of Sterling, but I came here to support this endeavor, as I know it's a tough time as we're looking at budgets. I would just want to echo what Jim said about how we start this budget process in Wachusett in kind of a new way over the past several years. Than 10 years ago, it was very different than how we look at it now, where right now it is a needs-based budget. And so we spend the year looking at what do we need for the next year. And so like Jim said, there are those positions that the administration takes a hard look at to see, do we need to have this position continue or not? And every year there is a change where there are changes in the positions. So, with this one, we decided as a committee to look at the new estimate from the state budget on revenues coming in. It's not an approved state budget, but we can reasonably assume that this increase in the per pupil revenue from the state, we voted as a school committee to apply it to the town's assessments. We have done that for the past year minimum, if not 2 years, 3 years. This is the third time. So it's a practice that the school committee knows is necessary for helping out the town each year. There's plenty of things that we would like to see that revenue go towards within the school district, but we also know that this needs to be a partnership. And so it's been recommended every time that we give it back to the town, and every time the school committee has followed through on that recommendation. Because we can't really get anywhere unless we are together as a community. So, thank you.
Jim, I believe 85% of all towns in this state are in hold harmless. Of the towns that you mentioned, were those towns in hold harmless? Or are there ones that weren't that still got a good increase?
I can't tell you off the top of my head. I was just trying to, the reason why I picked those 10 was I was just trying to look at surrounding communities around us, mostly look at Central Mass and then some other regionals. I think there's a mixture. I don't think Leominster is, I don't think Fitchburg is. And it's a good point. What I would say to you is that partly some of these higher increases are driven because these are towns that are getting Chapter 70 money. And it kind of goes back to the funding issue, right? And so the ones that you are particularly getting hurt hard, and especially when you look at the towns that are considering overrides. The majority of those towns, if I had to guess, are towns that have districts that are in hold harmless and have been kind of shut off from the Chapter 70 funding. But to your point, some of these larger amounts, so I think the Leominsters and Fitchburg in particular, they're partly driven by the state giving them increased funds. And
because they're not in hold harmless.
They're not in hold harmless, and the other thing is they're getting Student Opportunity Act funds. And so the one way they have tried to address the state funding formula over the last few years is they've looked at gateway and urban communities. and they've looked at trying to make sure those communities are properly funded. And so they kind of made them a priority. And I don't want to get the figures wrong, but I think like Leominster has seen in excess of $10 million more over the last few years through the Student Opportunity Act. And this was the last year that that actually was in place. What's really hurt us is we're not like an identified special interest. So we're not an urban community, right? We're not a vocational school. And these are parts of the formula that have been addressed since I think it was created in about 1990. And so we have a lot of districts like ourselves, like the other 85%, that are paying more than the share they should, you know. I think the state provides us around, I'm gonna say we're around $13,000 when they look at us for what the state says that we should be able to educate a student for in Wachusett. Nobody does it for $13,000, and I'm telling you, even when you take grants and all the money that we get, we're still 29th in the state in terms of low, but we do have discretionary amounts. So the one thing I would want everybody to know, our discretionary assessment for the entire district this year, it went up by 0.4%. And so it really is what we could control. We really did the best we could to make sure that was as low as possible. And I think that's probably the lowest it's been really in quite some time too. A lot of the increases that, you know, certainly people see in their assessments, they have to do with the state calculation of what towns can pay, which is something that we don't have control over. They're looking at property rates and a couple other economic factors that make that determination. And so every year the towns are automatically paying a little bit more. And then, you know, with that, you're paying more of your minimal local. And so that's going up too. And so the big problems I see with the state funding formula is they don't equate what it costs to educate a student in Wachusett. They're giving us far too little. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I would say is they're unfairly burdening our towns. And so places like Rutland, places like Paxton, they're seeing the growth in terms of some property values, and they're escalating how much the towns can pay without thought to what that impact is. And then what's really unfair, honestly, you know, Linda represents Sterling. Sterling is maxed out. So Sterling pays as much as the most wealthy communities in Massachusetts. Their proportional share is the same as Wellesley, Lexington, you know, the most wealthy communities across the state. And so that's where it's unfair too. Sterling's a beautiful town, but I don't think the amount of wealth that they have in Sterling equates to Wellesley or Weston or any of those other towns.
The reason I ask about hold harmless is, correct me if I'm wrong, before we went into hold harmless, we were getting about $3 million a year.
Yeah.
And now we're getting what, about $150, $200 a year per student?
So and so the year before we went into hold harmless, our increase in Chapter 70 was about $3.4 million. And so it was a significant factor. It really makes a difference. And then that first year when we went into it, we're not hemorrhaging students. So we're not losing a lot of students. I think that first year, it was less than 60, around 60 students we lost out of, at that time, 6,700, you know, so not even 1%, even close to it. And the drop in funding that year was more than, instead of an increase of $3.5 million, we got an increase of about 500,000. And so it was a huge impact just based on 22 students. And we're getting hurt by that too. We're not losing a ton of students every year. It's typically between that 60 and I think we probably maxed out at 120. And so a lot of times people ask us, well, how come you can't cut staff? Well, losing that number of students, when you look at a district as large as we are, okay, I think we're the 23rd largest district in the state. And so we're really big. That 122 students, that equates to about one student for every 3 classrooms. And so when you think of it that way, it's not like you're getting great savings, right? It's not like, you know, you can do without a classroom in a school. It just means out of every 3 classrooms, you're down 1 kid. And so that's one of the things we've been struggling with. And then what we're trying to do, and I'll admit this, is sometimes when we make those reductions, we are putting them into other positions. And like we've identified those in Rutland too, because we're not doing as well as we want to do as a school district, right? We're not having the results that we think the community deserves. So we're trying to make sure that we're making improvements as we can both not increasing our actual budget. That's really what we're trying to accomplish.
With all those numbers just said, the bottom line still is that our municipal side budget is gonna, we're in that 22% category still of cutting all the budgets, yet the school budget is still going up by a substantial amount. Because I know it's whatever it said here about what, I just read it, 4% or 3.5% or whatever it is. But that's 2/3 of our budget, that's a big number, so that's the difference. I mean, we can't keep sustaining that and just devastating the municipal side of the budget. Every year we've been doing this, on and on. The finance committee spoke at length about the numbers and the numbers for the town, and we have been since November, or no, even before that, I think. We went to town meeting, we made our proposal, that what we felt was reasonable for that article. An amendment was made, it failed. The article that we presented passed. The people spoke there, that's what they felt they could support. And then the following Monday, they spoke again. That's where we're at.
So just for everybody watching, what they're talking about is that, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, please, the Wachusett committee's budget as voted, back in, I think, March of 2026 was 18,383,604. The budget as moved by the FinCom at the, annual town meeting was, I believe, 17,723,546. The new budget that Wachusett has presented and voted on as of the 19th of May is 18,247,707. That is a reduction of $135,897. At this time, the way the article reads, it would be most likely that we would be using free cash to fund the remainder of the school budget. Sterling and Princeton have passed the budget. Holden is headed to their town meeting in a week. And I believe Princeton is at the end of June, Paxton is at the end of June to reconsider.
If I may, if I am looking, I don't have the most updated budget document, but I believe if we look at education, Bay Path's increase, which was under the our minimum local contribution, was 8.43%. Wachusett, I think with this updated number, is in the 4.29% to Rutland. It was a 3.09% to the total budget. Given the regional proportions, Rutland's increase is, I believe it's 4.29%. And so Bay Path, which is under the MLC, is more than double what Wachusett is asking for from Rutland, with far fewer students. And that's a funding formula issue. I just wanna point out that it's, we have other departments, that are pushing that double what Wachusett's ask is.
Sheila, also, the FinCom did not move to make a reduction in the school budget. We tied it to the override. That's all we did. We did not reduce the budget. We just tied it to the override.
Thank you.
That's an important point, Karen. Thank you very much for bringing that. We did not, as a matter of fact, anybody in this room that was at the town meeting, I spoke exactly to this thing. I did not wanna cut the budget. All the school, they work hard at it. We love the schools. Alls I did is tied it to the override question. And we're going down another trail here, everybody in this room. The selectman chair just said we're gonna pay for this with free cash. If you think we're struggling for police officers, firefighters, and highway departments this year, we're gonna add another 1.2 to 1.8 next year of trouble on top of this. I'm just telling you, you think it's bad this year? Hang on, it's gonna be the same show all over again. And unfortunately, I don't know what else to say. Maybe Louis can come up with his, donations sooner.
I'll show you how to do it. You don't do it at the 11th hour. You don't do it at the 11th hour. And then you split the votes. You never put them together. You split. Education has their own override, and the municipal part has their own override. That's how you do it. We passed a $4.6 million override for education in Worcester in 1991. Education passed. The others went down to defeat, but we separated. The city of Worcester was smart enough to separate them. So I'm begging you people, if you have to do an override then, do it early enough and separate the override questions. Get them separated.
So I'm gonna let Tom speak, just to clarify what Darren just said. My comment was that currently Article 2, as read, it has not been placed yet, hasn't been voted on yet. The way it is currently reading, it would take the money from free cash. Obviously, that's something that the town would have to decide at the special town meeting. I will note for the audience, to Mr. Connecchioli's point, that the difference between us and Worcester is that we are not completely masters of our domain when it comes to the school budget. We are a member of a regional district, and if 4 other communities pass this budget without us, we're gonna have that number to pay no matter what. So it is a difference to be noted, that's all. Go ahead, Tom.
So we keep hearing the comparison between the Bay Path budget and the Wachusett budget. And we've been over that one also with detail, or the right way to say, with a fine tooth comb, or however you wanna say it. When we had the Bay Path people here, it's 2 completely different models of how the funding is and what it's for. That's one thing. And number 2 is the Bay Path number of students, part of the reason it went up was there's more students going to Bay Path. So our Wachusett number of students has gone down, not up, it's going down.
Can you just clarify how much in free cash we would need to use? Because I know that the majority of the budget is already accounted for in the cut budget.
$524,161.
Thank you.
And I want to make sure everybody in the room understands that in November, we increased our revenues to significantly higher amounts than we typically use. So that means our free cash coming back to us starting July 1st is going to be less because we upped our revenues to spend it in the fall.
There was somebody here.
Just gonna briefly respond what I have for Harry. I only looked up the 5 that we could collectively remember off that list. Fitchburg and Leominster are not in hold harm list this year. Ash West, Shrewsbury, and Westboro all are. So it's from the 5 that were told to me, it's about an even split.
My curiosity was, if they're in hold harmless and they're still getting a better deal, if you will, from the state than we are, what's wrong? Not with us, with the state.
It's not the schools, it's not the schools.
I get a little tired of hearing this comparison between the schools and us.
It's not the
us.
schools.
Those are not comparable.
Maybe Louis can fix that at the state.
I know where to fix it, but you wanna hear it.
Can I ask a clarifying question? The amount that you're discussing for this warrant article, is it the full amount from the school committee? Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure because that is required by DESI to go to the town meeting, as the committee votes on it.
So, if we have a difference of opinion, our town council told us we don't have to go to the DESI number. We are not we can show you our opinion from the town council. That's why we changed it at the town meeting. Well, we didn't change it at the town meeting. We linked it to the override.
No chance to pass the override.
Back.
I've asked for the information from town council and I've been told it's confidential. I would like to see that document.
Yeah, does anybody have a copy of it here today?
Yeah, it's definitely not confidential. It's a public Actually, it's probably in your household. Near
Can we
where
add
your
that
husband
to
stores
tonight's
his
minutes,
stuff.
please?
That said, what's we're told is confidential is kept
It's
confidential in the house.
absolutely not
I'm just letting
confidential.
you know.
Let's make
But
that.
I did make a request for that document and was told it was not accessible to me.
Holding up at the town meeting.
It's not, alright, let's say that, if it comes in, it's not confidential, tell them, you're in charge of this, it's not confidential.
Alright, so if any document that crosses the table is absolutely not confidential, so whatever information you received was incorrect, and I see no reason why you won't be able to get that document. If it's not here in the room tonight, you're gonna receive it? Fair enough? Yes, great. Sarah?
If I, maybe a little clarification. My understanding from reading MGL and speaking with a few people is that we are required to present the full number in writing in the article. How it's moved, the motion can be different as long as they know what it was being asked of from the treasurer of the school district, what he came up with, and it needs to be presented for consideration. It does not need to be voted yes or no, it can be changed. And not that it's changed necessarily, because we've said it was that minus something, and it was, if the override went through, we would be using free cash.
Sorry, go ahead.
I have another maybe question, maybe to Michelle, I don't know. The first lowering from the 18.8 to the smaller number 18.383 was basically tied to an insurance. Did that come from the insurance line, or was it a mixture of the insurance line and some discretionary or E&D?
So the savings was from insurance. We made some adjustments because of the oil costs to increase, to pay for the changes in oil costs. And then we added a little to salaries, because we were in the negotiation process.
Okay.
So none of it was from E&D, it was just a little bit of switching of some.
Okay, so it wasn't the full savings, that savings went to other lines and increased them.
How many percent would you say? I would say maybe 95%. I mean, how much? What
On the saving side, like, yeah, maybe 90% of it was coming off of insurance.
In this next 135-ish, that's anticipated increase in student aid coming from the state, correct?
That's student aid.
So I guess I'm saying that to say that because it didn't come from necessarily line items except for, I mean, I know a bulk of it came from, but it's coming from things that the budget didn't change much.
No, we didn't change.
And so it's not exactly, I was anticipating to say that it's like us using free cash to balance, but it's not far from that. It's one-time revenue, and so it's similar to us using free cash for the school budget. So the school budget hasn't adjusted down like we are having to adjust down by the 25%. So I don't know if I've just said something maybe a little different for somebody to hear something different, but it's been mulling around in my mind. Thank you.
Hi, I'm new to town, a year and a half, and I love Rutland. And I moved out this way to become we're professional grandparents. And I'm really new, and I want to understand, and I've heard a lot of, read a lot of things and heard a lot of things. My name's Mary Landry, by the way. And I decided to come and start getting involved a little bit because schools are important, police are important. I moved into Rutland and I felt like I moved into a set of the Hallmark Channel. I left a town in Bellingham that was a sleepy community when I moved there, and we raised our children there, and Bellingham outgrew us. I also attended regional high school. I graduated in 1974 in New York State. And I remember at the time that at that time, I was a child, of course, but there was a significant need for changes in the school budgets. And how they did that, it was called an austerity budget. And I certainly don't understand all of the finances and all of the different kind of, just personally, I was very sad because they got rid of all junior high school extracurricular activities, in that budget. And then I don't know what happened, everything got better, and by the time I was in high school, it had all settled out. And then fast forward to, I don't remember exactly the first time that Proposition 2.5 was presented to the Bellingham school systems. They cut a lot of things in that, and I don't know the situation within the schools here. I've heard they're excellent, but some of the things that they cut were, again, we started to pay stipends for sports, and we started booster clubs to help fund for school uniforms and all of that kind of jazz. So I don't know, I don't know the budget. I read what I could get online from the superintendent of the regional school. But I don't know, at what level teachers are important, education is important, safety is important. So I just am here to introduce myself and to just to get more involved, and I will start attending more meetings. But I don't know if any of those things have been thought about within any of the school budgets. They seem to work, and I'm gonna get involved in town and see what I can do to help as just an army of one, I guess, and to try to be positive. But I don't know, I don't know what exactly has the budget, what have you looked at? Have you looked at the little things at all in the school budget, or was it all, is it just staffing positions and I don't know, but I do know that it appears, and in my humble opinion, and I'm not that worldly, I don't have a finance degree, I was a social worker, but that this, and I did vote in the town, and I thought they needed a year, not a few weeks or something to sift this all out. But that's just why I'm here, and I want to help and I want to support, and I just didn't know if any of those things had been considered or might be considered up the road, because it just seems like this is just going to keep building and building, and I don't want Rutland to become a Bellingham. That's why I left Bellingham. But there's not, it's hard when, it's just kind of everything's, tax-based. I know of some people in town that I've heard that they're just gonna get taxed out. And they're gonna have to leave the town that they've been in for a very long time. So, thank you for hearing me. And most of all, thank you everybody in the town for doing the best job that they can do, given the circumstances and the small amount of time and all that. I'm very happy with everything, and I'm really happy to help out. But those are just some things that came up in my little social worker brain as a Grammy.
Thank you so much, Mary.
So I don't know, but there's, this is hard times.
I think, for the select board and for the FinCom, the article as written is very specific. If someone has suggestions about how to change the language of it, this is the time. Otherwise, we'll ask one more time for discussion about the article. There is a motion and a second on the table to place it, and we will take that vote. Okay, hearing none, all in favor of placing Article 2 as presented?
Whitman, aye.
Second, I.
Vote aye.
So,
Oh, no.
You voted?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, Matt's and I.
All right, and Dubai, so that's unanimous, thank you very much. We appreciate everybody from the school that came tonight to offer information, the more the better. Obviously, you know what we wanted, which was a dramatic decrease. And that was not forthcoming. We're gonna vote on the number that was voted on by the school committee on May 19th. So, thank you.
Should I do a finance committee recommendation at this point?
I think we're gonna have a meeting, our regular meeting on the 8th to discuss it more, so that's entirely up to you. Meeting. All right, moving on. There's two articles that should be actually fairly fast, and then we're gonna circle back to the first, and we have one other thing to discuss. We have somebody here for that. So for Article 3, and I do not need to read it for those of you who are looking at it in your packet, this is the placement of an authorization to give the select board authorization to petition the general court, that is the legislature, for special legislation to get an additional liquor license, permanent liquor license for our Rutland Marketplace owners. This is the first step in a long process. We're not 100% sure that we will make it in the current session, but we were encouraged by Representative Ferguson's office to at least give it a shot. So as you might know, currently they have a seasonal license, and it requires them to essentially close down their liquor sales for about a 4-month period in the wintertime. This is a fairly common local option request, home rule petition request, and so we are asking for this first step. So could I have a motion to place Article 3 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the article? Yes.
Could I just call out, just because I wanna make sure that we're all on the same page, if you review the explanation, this is a license amendment that would be specific to this license at this location to this owner. And should that ever change, this is not a transferable license. And we just put it that way for the purpose of discussion. I'm assuming that's the way we wanna move forward, but if that is not the expectation of this group, then this would be a good time to let me know so that we can change that language, if that is the desire.
Heather, did you say ownership and location?
Yes.
So if someone bought it, that particular license does not transfer?
Correct.
If I may, I think Ted, I was thinking the same thing. I wonder, because we recently had a sale of that business, the location remained, but the owners changed. And so I don't know if it would make sense to keep it as, if there's a way to do it, to keep it as the entity, the location and the idea of the business itself, and allow it transfer via owners, if they were to sell the business in.
Yeah, because it would make sense that it wouldn't be as valuable if it wasn't.
Right, well, just like what
We got a resident expert right here, so why don't we, I mean, can you guys modify that to just say location specific?
It's possible, yeah.
So,
If possible, because
so you want it to be specific to the location, but not to the owner. So should the owner choose to sell the business, that license could be transferable.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not up to us.
no, I'm making a recommendation. I'm just,
No,
we're talking about it, that's all.
Is there a reason it was written that way? I mean, is it easier to get through this way? I'm just was sort of curious.
Typically, this is fairly typical language. It's usually very restrictive when you grant a special, when you're creating a, special legislation, it's usually fairly restrictive, so this is the starting point, and again, that's why I call it out, because I wanna make sure that when we get to town meeting and it's voted on, and then something happens and everybody looks at me and says, why did you do that?
I guess I'm comfortable either way, I just have had questions about that, and if we had the letter of support from the current owners, in support of the way it was originally written, I believe, that it was very specific and narrow. I just was trying to think, because that business had sold fairly recently, if it made sense, because otherwise it would be an additional home rule petition, I would assume, if a new owner were to come in and want to be able to take advantage of that.
Question, how do our other liquor licenses work? Do they transfer with the owner and the business, or?
They're eligible to, so if a business owner was to sell an existing traditional license, they would come to the select board for a transfer of ownership. If they were going to move to a new location, they would come to the select board for an amendment of location. But those are licenses that are that live with the town and are under your jurisdiction. This is a modification to a license to grant sales beyond what your authority is currently for this particular license and location.
You know, I guess I'd question if we're giving more authority to this license than we do to other licenses.
No, it's only because you don't have another traditional license to offer to this individual, so therefore they're restricted in their sales.
But if the business is sold, they have to come to us for the transfer of the license.
Well, they would still have to come back to you for a transfer. What we're saying, with this special legislation, they wouldn't even have the option to do so.
As it's written, they wouldn't have the option.
As it's written, they would not have the license. Should they relocate or sell the business, this special license goes away.
Okay.
And just for everybody to be clear, liquor licenses are based on population, and so the next time the town of Rutland would have an opportunity to see an additional multiple liquor licenses come up is going to be at the next federal census. So we have a ways to go.
So we allow our current licensees to be able to ask for a transfer, but under this one, we wouldn't, so it's more restrictive than what we have. We're asking more restrictions of this individual than we do on other individuals for licenses? That doesn't seem quite,
Well, because we're asking for extra beyond what we're allowed.
well, I know that, but still, maybe we should, if we're asking for it, make it the same.
Isn't it, to answer that question, isn't it, this particular place has a I'm gonna use the word partial license right now.
Yeah.
That could be transferred, correct?
Yes. The partial license could be
The
transferred.
partial license could be transferred, just like all the other ones could be, but they couldn't transfer the whole full license, which is what they're looking for.
So I take it back, I'm comfortable with this, and then if the business were to sell and the new owner would want to go through this again, then we could go through this again. And because they still have the beer and malt license available.
Heather?
So I take it back, I'm comfortable with this as presented, sorry for the confusion.
No, I mean, we should be asking these questions.
The question I had was, who requested this and how did it get to you guys to get onto the warrant?
They've brought it up to me a few times, I didn't realize that there was an avenue to do it.
It was a so they petitioned the town. They sent a letter asking us to consider this, the owners of the business.
To the Board of Selectmen.
Correct.
And then the Select Board decided to put it on the warrant.
Yes.
Okay.
But we're 3 weeks out from the town meeting, and they didn't bring it to us 3 weeks ago to put on the annual town meeting?
They weren't aware that this was an option.
Okay, so the other question I had was, then, so you just said the current owners there sold the business to somebody else, or what's the
Nothing is different with the current owners.
Okay, but what was the business transfer you just talked about? Somebody just said business.
No, I just said.
2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
previous-
all right.
a few years
Yeah.
ago.
Okay.
Carol, was there? All right, any other comments? We're okay with it as presented. It will live with the owners and location. Okay. All in favor of placement?
Wait a minute.
Second, aye.
Hold on.
Martin, aye.
And Divine, thank you, unanimous. All right, I thought that would be fast. I feel like this one will be fast too. Article 4,
Excuse me, Sheila,
yes.
can I just jump in?
Yeah.
Can I just make a motion to adjourn the assessors portion of the meeting? I'm
Oh,
making
yeah,
a motion.
it's all you.
Motion.
Make a motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
See ya.
The assessors are adjourned as of 7:15. Thank you very much. Article number 4 is the petition article for Prop 2.5 override that was presented to the board with certified signatures. This is not an article that would be amended or changed in any way, and it is the requirement of the board to place it. Can I get a motion to place Article 4 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Whitman, aye.
Second, I.
All right.
And Deb, aye. Thank you, unanimous. All right, and we're moving on. We have an article to, I guess, be introduced that is not currently on the draft, but our deputy chief is here. Hi,
How are you?
ready to go? All right, in your packet, you have information. The fire department submitted a request for us to consider an article to create an enterprise fund for the ambulance service. Ryan, and you should probably just start immediately speaking, so I don't wanna get this wrong.
So right now, all the ambulance revenue that we get from our billing goes into the town's general fund. The fire department doesn't see a dime of it. What we're presenting is to create an enterprise fund, which would allow us to keep the ambulance receipts that we basically earn. This will help offset our operating budget, and in turn, we can use it for salaries, EMS capital items, supplies, and it'll allow us, the fire department, to be more, I guess, self-sufficient and provide a better service to the town. So we're kind of looking at a phased approach. So year one, which would be this upcoming fiscal year, we would take $450,000 out of the ambulance receipts. And anything else over that will go back to the town general fund. Then years looking forward to fiscal year 28, 29, we would retain all ambulance receipts. We're looking at this because obviously the override didn't pass, so we're gonna have to lay off 5 people. We're kind of doing a Hail Mary effort to try to save that. If we do have to lay off 5 people, we're gonna have 2 people staffed 24 hours a day. That's a single ambulance. So you're looking at revenues for the ambulance going back fiscal year 19, which is around $450-ish thousand, and we're estimated this year to be 809. So you're looking at almost $350,000 lapse in revenue. And I know, we're obviously in a financial crisis, and I don't think personally the town can afford it. And as a department, we need to look to kind of save our people and try to move forward the best we can. Do you have any questions I can answer for you?
I just wanna make a statement. And don't take the strong way now, but just a minute ago, you said that you don't see a penny of the money, the revenues.
Well, we do in the operating budget.
Well, you do. That's what I'm saying. That whole amount that is local revenue from the ambulance receipts is in the whole pot of money that we use to operate the town. So that money does transfer straight through.
Yeah.
And if you wanna make it look like you're using it, that money goes right to the fire department. I have a little experience with this, so that's why I'm saying that, but, that's what it is, and that's how it started out, and that's the way it's
I
been.
guess the fire department is looking for more of a guarantee.
No, okay, that's a better way to say it. If you separate this to a separate account, then that money stays there only to be used by that, correct? That would be correct.
Ryan, what happens if for some strange reason we didn't have that revenue? How would we offset, pay the salaries?
Say it one more time?
So we don't have $500,000, let's use that number.
Yeah.
That it costs to operate the ambulance, $500,000, but we only earn $3,000 or $400,000. What are we gonna do? How do we make that rest of it up?
We'd have to go to free cash. We'd have to look for a reserve fund transfer and try to get money elsewhere. But we project ambulance revenue, and we wouldn't project it to the full 100%. We look at probably 80-85%. So hopefully in that scenario, we would never come into that problem.
Just trying to have you explain it to everybody in the room, buddy.
Oh, okay.
That's all. I'm not disagreeing with you, I just want everybody to understand that. Thank you.
If I may, I am wondering what this does then to our current approved operating budget, because we're essentially then removing, I'm gonna say $500,000 of revenue in our operating budget that is not solely covered by the expenses proposed. I think the fire balanced budget that we approved was $1,490,961. And I think, while I don't necessarily disagree that this is an interesting and potentially viable option going forward, I think that this is not the time nor the place to move forward with this, given the dire straits that we are in. And I don't wanna see, I don't wanna see the reduction to the fire, to the police, to town services, to any of it. But I think that this is a much larger conversation, and my understanding was that this was kind of submitted very last minute and not with full vetting through all of our administration department heads. And so I really take issue with the fact that it's 2 weeks before our meeting and that this is trying to be done, that to me, I think is valid, but needs a lot more vetting. And so that's my personal take.
Yeah, and again, we apologize that the timing isn't, great. But, we are trying to, it sounds selfish, but we are trying to save our fire department and look best to provide a service to the town, and this is what we're coming up with at the current time.
I mean, I agree 100%. I understand that, and I think that this was a conversation that other departments brought up throughout the budget conversations and had very heated conversations with our town administrator and FinCom and select board at the time, and this was not one of those conversations. And I think that it's quite frankly a slap in the face to our administration, who works very hard to do this the way this was done.
So it was my understanding that this had been discussed at some length. I totally agree with Leah. This is a significant structural change. You would typically do this during an annual town meeting, and it's not something that anybody, I think, at the table took up. You please let me know. I didn't necessarily see it. Obviously, we're all trying to throw things at the wall right now to see what sticks. So it got sent to us. We're here at the table tonight, and as you saw, it's not on the draft warrant, but you've now heard that it has been received. So, yes.
Hypothetically, if this were to go into effect, pass, what does it do to Article 1 that is proposed on the warrant? Does it negate the need for that or change the need of Article 1 significantly?
It could. It could also be an either or situation, and I'll be honest, Ted, from my perspective, I would personally love to see us go into special town meeting with some simplicity, and this certainly would not make it simple. But
If I may, I had similar questions more along the lines of what it does to our total general operating budget for Article 4 that I believe that we
We
passed.
essentially lose $500,000.
Exactly, and how that then is reconciled. And we haven't gotten to Article 1 yet, but I made my comments about that before.
If I may, I don't know if you technically lose $500,000, cause our operating budget would just be reduced by that $450,000. It's kind of a,
But we'd have to re-vote because they
Yeah, I see that
voted
point.
that particular budget for that appropriation, so it would almost be double
Starting over?
dipping, right? We would
Yeah,
have to
I-
go back and amend Article 4 to then remove that appropriation.
Like I said, for me personally, I think that it's not it's worthy of a much larger conversation, just not for this special. And like I said, I don't want to see the reductions that anyone is seeing at all. And I've said it blatantly many times. It's breaking my heart, and so I don't want to see any of that. But I don't think that this is for me the appropriate time to have this conversation. I had a whole lot of outstanding questions that I still don't even know that we would have fully answered in time. Yep.
Close the warrant, you closed the warrant though this already, so I don't know how
Well,
this.
we can place articles, but we closed it to anybody that had done something, yeah.
So, but that's not on that warrant, it's just, this
No, but
was
we-
proposed
but
to
we
be
could-
maybe, oh, okay, I
Let's
got you.
open it to put something else on it.
And if I may, there have been times before, Carol, when you were on the board with me, there was a couple times that we had received articles from department heads or others that we didn't end up placing for that particular meeting because we felt that they needed further vetting.
Oh, I
So-
agree.
Yeah, I just think that what I've known, what we have been through as a board last year and other, on revolving funds, it's a very different quote animal. And I think it deserves a lot more consideration than just looking at it tonight.
I think that's fair. We received it, so.
But Ryan, just what I had said a few minutes ago, in essence, using those round numbers, if we anticipated 500,000 in ambulance revenue, and what the proposed budget here is, or the voted budget is $1,490,000, let's say $1.5 million, you know, the 500,000 is wiped out anyways, because that money came in as revenue, you're using it, but you're also the department is getting another $1 million under raise and appropriate to continue the whole operation, so. The only thing I'm saying is, this has been looked at a number of times over the years since the inception of the ambulance. And we've talked about it, and we've always stuck with the model we're using right now, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just continue to reiterate it, you know, with the staffing that we're gonna have come July first, the revenue that we're anticipating is not gonna be there, or what we've kind of accustomed to, it's no longer gonna be there.
Right, right.
So you're looking at about, you know, $350,000 to $400,000 lost in revenue if we can't staff an ambulance.
Which is gonna be terrible, I agree with you 100%, it's gonna be terrible.
So is our current revenue number reflected in the reduced staff? After the override failed?
That's what I was just gonna say.
Nope.
It doesn't really make any sense if we're losing $400,000 of revenue, but we're cutting applicable $200,000 of expense, then we're really losing.
It's why your free cash predicament is so desperate for FY '26 certification. FY '27 will be even less, is what I'm,
Free cash?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
gonna
what
be
does that have to do with the ambulance receipts that are in the operating revenue for FY '27? What does free cash have to do with that?
because generally any revenue that we would have over and above what we anticipate, so basically, we don't ever budget up to 100%, right? This year, we budgeted, in FY '26, you're budgeted about 90%. In FY '27, we're budgeting about 85%. So we're not anticipating, we have not budgeted 100% of ambulance revenues now. But that usually is a free cash generator for us. In FY '27, it'll be more like a break even. If we break even.
But if we can't answer ambulance calls and our revenue projection number didn't change after the override failed, what should it have been? Have we,
806,000.
how much?
Fiscal year '27 is 806,000 if the override passed.
But it didn't. So what is the anticipated ambulance revenue for the upcoming year, knowing that the override failed,
It'd
I guess?
be,
It's like
We-
four.
and that-
For the budget, I
We
said
have-
600.
Revenue sheet, somebody have?
Yeah, I see 600 on the one I got. I don't know how many times it's
could be,
changed since then.
you're looking at fiscal year 19, which is, we get 409,000. So
It's a $200,000 shortfall.
We've dropped it to about $600,000 for FY '27 post override failure. Is it dropped enough? Probably not,
I'm gonna say it could drop more, could drop.
but we had to balance the budget, so if we had dropped it to the $400,000, that would have been another $200,000 worth of cuts we would have been making up.
But when that revenue doesn't come in, what are we gonna do?
We're gonna make cuts.
Make that?
Well, by then it'll be too late.
Right.
Better make the reserve fund big.
It's too late, they already did that.
I mean, we haven't gotten Article 1 yet, but this of course gets back to all these sort of Hail Mary passes that we keep talking about, and I don't know what to say.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I'm hearing, it means that the budget for the fire department is basically going to be in a downward spiral because they can't make as much money, which means the town is not taking in as much money, which means we have less to give to them, which means they have less resources to make money off the ambulance, which in turn is less money, and that's just going to what are we gonna do, end up with one firefighter?
Okay, and you forgot to mention that in the midst of all that money, our services are going to suffer.
Yes.
Our medical services are
Yes.
going to suffer for this, but that's almost secondary, we sort of knew that already. I think the question is, looking at what we had proposed, looking at what got proposed to us. So just, you've heard from Leah, who feels like it's not fully baked at all and needs more time. I think it has been discussed in the past. I think to some people's questions, enterprise ambulance funds are relatively common. So we're not, reinventing the wheel here and suggesting it, but it's new for us. And it's a big structural change. So is this not the time? Or is it?
I think it is.
Heather, was this brought up to you during the review of the budget when you first came on board? Okay.
But I think at that point, we were all very optimistic that we would pass an override, so.
Yeah, but you always plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Right, so, to continue sort of the line of thought here, is that there are as many pros as there are cons to this. This certainly has its place in the future discussions for both the select board and the finance committee. I think that you have a special town meeting warrant that was opened for the specific purpose to address a petition article and to address our school budget. I think that this is a topic that requires extensive discussion. And I think that the special town meeting warrant that has been open for 3 days may not be the most adequate place for that extensive discussion, is my thought.
I just, the answer to your question that you just said was down to one firefighter. The rest of the fire department budget is still gonna be, tax dollars are gonna pay for the other parts of the budget. If the revenue goes down, there still should be tax dollars there to support a portion of that budget.
Then maybe amend the article to something where it's a fixed amount per year based on the operating budget of the fire department, and anything above and beyond that, it's sort of like the school district's excess and deficiencies fund, which is what, something of that,
Isn't that what he said?
Yeah, that's what the article's presented.
Yeah.
For this year, fiscal year, it's 450,000, and anything excess over that goes back to the town's general fund.
but would that be just for this fiscal year, or would that be?
They're gonna modify it as.
Yeah, we'd have to modify it
Okay.
at some point. But for this upcoming fiscal year, that's how it would read, and
Okay.
that's what we would do.
Okay. Do I hear from any board member that wanted to place this article right now? Okay, hearing none. Ryan, thank you. I don't think, I guess we all get it, right? We're all trying crazy things and trying to come up with crazy ideas, and this, probably requires a binder's worth of research for us to all know where we're headed and where this is gonna go, and we hope you guys do some projections, and I would expect it's gonna get discussed again. I think you guys have already discussed it. Is that fair in the past? Sort of off and on. And if that ends up being a serious discussion, I anticipate it would start really soon. Whether that's for the fall special or more likely the May annual in 2027. So thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Article 1. This is the article that is asking to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash or other available funds the sum of $296,403.50 to defray the expenses of the municipal departments for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026, just so everybody is clear on that number and where it came from. It's coming from what it would take in an override situation to fund the general government, so set aside the school for a second, for 12 months, taking that number, dividing it into 12, and then multiplying by 2 months, that is July and August, with the anticipation that you would put off any of the layoffs of our town staff and try for a reduced override in the fall.
In that money, does that include anything for the personnel benefits and unemployment that has to be paid when we lay them off?
So that is a full number for all town departments. I don't believe even the previous numbers included the layoff number.
No, we have money there put aside,
we
but
do,
now,
but-
but as of July 1st, everyone gets their full banked amount of vacation time.
Yep, and that's a risk. That
That's a
banked-
big risk, and where are we gonna get it from?
Yeah, it's a huge risk. Now, we are semi-aware, you know, from what we're hearing, that our public safety personnel are in great demand, but there is no guarantee. It's one of many risks. Yep.
Sorry. If you were to do the thing that you talked about at the last meeting with funding the budget for the next 2 months, yes.
Yes, yeah.
But would that allow could that potentially get on a fall town meeting? For like the restructuring, so we could save the jobs until we could do the restructuring of that fund.
I mean, anything is possible. It would be at the pleasure of the board, the FinCom, to sort of, yeah.
Okay, cause I know that the general feeling at the last meeting from Chief Monaco was it's all about the 4th of July and the blah, 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 all of that. This would make it very, very obvious. I would hope that that's not why we want to save the jobs. This might give us a really good opening to introduce that and hold on to them until we can get that out there.
But then you're also taking the chance that
Yes.
an override doesn't pass, and then we're in even worse shape.
Not really, if the numbers were wrong on what we based it on, because we didn't account for those
No.
funds,
We did.
It's gonna be bad.
not the losses.
It's gonna be bad.
I have a question about the timing. We're gonna fund July and August, but we're not having the meeting until the middle of September. So how would there seems to be, we should be looking at funding 3 months, not 2 months.
So the meeting on June 16th would decide whether or not the town wanted to spend more free cash on funding July and August.
Right.
We would have to set an election prior to September 15th, I agree with you. Now, obviously, we have a state primary on September 1st. We have a statement from our attorney that the state doesn't necessarily love it when communities do it, but it is allowed. Now, you would consider that when this works, it is not something where you add a local question to a state primary ballot, it's a separate ballot. So we're basically going in parallel to the state primary election, but that's why there was the 2 months, knowing that September 1st was the state primary. We could go earlier and run a separate local election. That's another option for sure. But September 15th is for that drop dead deadline.
So even with September 1, we would have had to make decisions by August 31. Because we don't know if we get that, because we're looking for another override then to continue funding from September 1 to the end of the fiscal year. So we don't, unless you have another special town meeting in August, which I heard that's the summer and it's not a good time to do that. I don't see how it's working. Because in June, we would fund for 2 months. But then we run out of money on August 31, and we'd be asking at the next special town meeting, or meeting and election,
No, you got, so when we left the May 9th meeting, you fully funded your Article 4. So that appropriation has been made. You wouldn't have to have another special town meeting to appropriate the funds if they were approved by the override. What failed was the override. The budget passed.
Right,
So there would be no need for another special town meeting.
okay, but you do have to have an override question.
Right, that would be the September 1st meeting, or whenever the select board called.
It'd have to be in August, cause otherwise
Otherwise,
we've had to
August
lay off
31st, we
people
gotta lay people off.
by August 31st, yeah, so.
We, yeah,
Or we go another month.
none of this is ideal. We don't have the money for another month, even if we wanted it. We can, to your point, back up the election a little bit. We're running very tight right now on dates. And that, starts a whole other set of issues relative to school availability. The school will be getting ready to ramp up for the year. Not open yet, but getting ready and very, very close. We actually have memos from the town clerk's office. The costs involved, it's a little cheaper to do it, maybe along with the primary, but honestly, the money is close to being a wash. The cost that they estimated, I think it's in your packet, is I think something around $5,300.
58.
58, thank you.
Which we don't have.
Question in the back.
Lincoln Moss, 119 Britnell. Two questions here. A lot of this conversation is speaking in hypotheticals and what ifs. But if this did pass and we did fund for 2 months, and then an override failed, we are in a worse situation because we just drained free cash. We make layoffs, we're now making less revenue from ambulance, and then we get hit with a blizzard over the winter. Can we pay for snow and ice in the winter if those two hypotheticals happened?
So this comes up a lot. We under budget snow and ice because you're allowed to overexpend it. It's not ideal. And we've been under budgeting snow and ice for many, many years. And this
Exactly.
year, it certainly came back to bite us, right? We had a very tough winter. So to your point, yep, another one of the risks.
So then what
100%.
happens?
Well, we're not, I mean, in terms of the free cash, which I think Heather has spoken to and probably Darren is about to. Yeah, I mean, we
Does plowing not happen?
We can deficit spend snow and ice, so we would continue to maintain winter operations even if we exceed our appropriation.
And then
Yes,
how
plowing
do
would
we pay the
continue.
bill when there's no free cash?
You would carry it on your recap and have to appropriate it the following year.
Okay.
Don't worry about snow and ice, worry about the 4 or 5 more firemen and 3 or 4 more police officers that we're gonna have to lay off next budget season, because we don't
Right,
have.
it's a slippery slope,
We're
yeah.
This is gonna put us up like 1 point, we're gonna be in trouble.
Worse.
Don't worry about snow and ice, that's the easy one, it's the people. Cause we can push that off. The people is gotta kill us.
And you're absolutely right, and I apologize for not mentioning the people. I think what the point I'm trying to make is the ripple effect to all of this.
Oh, it's gonna be bad, you're 100% correct.
I have
It's-
another small question, which probably can be asked elsewhere, but while I'm here, do we know if we have childcare on the 16th?
I can actually answer to that.
Yeah.
I asked that question through Karina, and I do not want to speak for her, but that was something they are exploring. So more to follow on that shortly. And I'm waiting, I don't want to speak for them. I would rather them make the call as a Department of Rec if they're going to or not.
I believe they're trying.
They're trying. They did not, I didn't hear a no, but I think they're trying to figure it out, so.
Sorry.
Seconds. Next station, Skier.
Okay, let me see, I'll take care of that for you.
No idea how to shut it off.
So, the.
Workout completed.
In my.
2 seconds.
Wow, that was a good workout. So, in Article 2, the only reason that brings me concern is the 524,000 that we're gonna spend in free cash there. And then when you add this on top of it, I'm not against, we're snowballing.
Yeah.
We're not kicking the can down the road,
It's
now we're
down the
kicking a
road.
big building.
Yeah.
And it's gonna hurt us. Anybody in this room that doesn't realize next year is gonna be tough.
Oh, yeah.
We're not, it's not gonna be any easier.
And if I may, I spoke my sentiments on Monday night, and I still have very significant concerns. I feel like the work has been done, unfortunately, for the July 1st cuts, and the department heads have prepared for that with the employees, unfortunately, and as sad as I am about that, I think that I don't have a good sense from the community that they even now are supportive of an override. And so my fear is that going into an August or September election, that there's not this big sense of remorse and regret at this point, that the override failed. And so that sounds, and I hate how callous and insensitive that sounds, because that's not where I'm coming from. I hate to sit here and see our employees not have jobs come July 1st. But I think that's, to me, expending almost an additional $300,000 in free cash to continue government for 2 more months without a warm and fuzzy sense of anything changing, then puts us in only carrying forward about, I believe, $162,000 to $165,000 in free cash. And we just heard that everything is budgeted so tightly from fiscal year 26 that the clearance of any fiscal year 26 free cash is probably going to be much reduced. And so not only snow and ice, that's one of my considerations, but also if there's any emergencies, if we had to increase staffing for anything, for an emergency or something, we have nothing to pull from there. And we know this past year there's been a lot of end of year transfers, there's been a lot of reserve fund transfers, there's been a lot of unexpected. It's only going to get worse because of the budget situation that we're in. That's from me personally. Lou?
Madam Chair, it is absolutely evident, after listening to the discussion tonight, we're stuck with 2.5. So the only way to take care of 2.5 is an override. I know to some people in this room, that's a dirty word, but it's reality. And so may I suggest that if Darren's projections are correct, and the town will not exist in 2 years, as we know it now, that we form committees and start to plan for an override and do it right. Do it right. There's a right way to deal with override. I know it's a nasty word for a lot of people, and there are a lot of people listening at home saying, Connie Curley and his big mouth again. But that's the reality. So we either shut the town down, or we get together, we form a reasonable override. We don't pit one group against the other. My understanding of the override question that's suggested is for public safety, am I correct, in the DPW? The one that's been presented to you?
That was the petition.
Yeah, that petition. So it can be done. Overrides get passed. We've passed overrides in this town. I just think the whole structure was done incorrectly, and that led to our defeat. And remember this, there are, how many, Anita? 7,400 registered voters. Only 1,800 voted. Where were the rest of them? Why weren't we knocking on their door? Why weren't we going to them? Why weren't we having coffee with them? And why weren't we talking to them and say, if you love this town, then let's do something about it. So it's gonna hurt you a little bit. But it's gonna hurt even worse if we're down to one ambulance. Doug Briggs and I think it was Don Daltiel, were the select people when we brought in the ambulance. We figured out how to do it, and it's been effective for a number of years. Tommy led the charge with us. Do we want to decimate the ambulance service or the police? We want to decimate them? So we have to be realistic. The only way out, override. Anything less, you're just in a fantasy world. So I would suggest very strongly, and I will give all the help I possibly can, that we organize ourselves, we start to organize ourselves now as a group, and we look at the override. Unless the legislature, which they're not gonna do it, because no one's got the guts to do it, goes in and changes 2.5. The worst piece of legislation ever passed in the state of Massachusetts, worst.
Oh, I'm not gonna address that. We have the strongest voice in the town of Rutland, by far is all the kids that come home with the school has the most power. And if we work with our superintendent, if we wanna pass overrides, we have to get those guys involved. And they can move mountains. I've been to town meetings where they're up there beating drums and doing fun things to get an override, and they passed it. If the school's involved, we can get overrides. And I'm not against the schools. We gotta pass an override, everybody. We're $4.1 million out of whack next year, no matter what we do right now. And if we pass this, we're gonna be almost 5. So, million out of whack. If Louis wants to help us get the schools.
They'll be there, don't worry about the
No,
school.
we needed more voters from the school people last time. We need to get them out, if that's what we wanna do.
Oh, Darren, you and I ought to talk personally about this. I don't wanna
So just to-
hang up this meeting.
Just to clarify for some people, there's only so much that elected and appointed boards can do relative to political action. That needs to be made very clear. That's meant to be what
Absolutely.
Mr. Connectney is talking about is
Absolutely.
grassroots action. It cannot come from the elected and appointed boards and committees in this town. So that's an important distinction. That's number one. Number two, the reason I think we're all here for Article 1 is because it is, I mean, I phrase it as a Hail Mary, it is. It's a risk. We have a letter from our professional staff who don't like it because we're using more free cash. I don't blame them. Heather was good enough to put together a historical document of all of our free cash. I think you have it in your packet. We've had very, very bad years of free cash, and we've had a few good ones. And right now, we're carrying a balance, and we're trying to use it as a cushion to protect ourselves for our upcoming year. I get that. There's no wrong in that. And, you know, I could disagree a little bit with Mr. Cannacchioli. It looked to me like everybody in this room worked really hard on this last override. And, you know, hindsight's 20/20, and it's really easy to armchair quarterback it after the fact. We have no idea if things had been organized differently, done differently, described differently, if it would have failed anyway. So the only question I think tonight is, are we gonna give this another shot fast? Or do more like what Mr. Cannacchioli is talking about and kind of walk away, lick our wounds and maybe try again? That's where I am coming at this fully from a place of, I feel like we heard very good information from so many people that the number was maybe a little bit too much, or they didn't know where to go, or whatever. And if we now, with the more information that we have at hand, can give them a much more specific number and a much more specific reason, maybe that's worth a shot. But again, I can't phrase this as anything, and you know, I'm agreeing with all of you. It's risky. We know it's risky. There's no question. So
I think, for me, one of the things is I think we had very solid numbers as to why we were asking for what we were asking for. I'm comfortable with those numbers. My concern is asking for a significantly lower dollar amount that's not going to address anything structurally, and it's going to be just a Band-Aid, that if we were to have it September 1st, that then we begin these conversations all over again for the fiscal year 28 budget, and we're going to need another significant override, because this past override was to fix things structurally and put us on a path, at least a more sustainable path. And we heard again and again and again that people don't like overrides because they feel that we ask very frequently for them. This was trying to be transparent with, this is what we need for the 3 years, and had very detailed budgeting as to why that was, down to the dollars. And so I really struggle.
Now on WBZ News Primetime, headed to New England, wide receiver A.J. Brown traded to the Patriots. What this new addition means for the team. It'll be a chilly start to the day tomorrow, but a warming trend. Lots of sunshine this week, bringing us all the way back to 90 degrees.
Yeah.
A fallen firefighter Bobby Kilduff Jr. laid to rest how he was remembered and the thousands of first.
Well, we get AJ Brown, I think we're all set.
Thanks, WBZ, for the coverage. I totally hear that. Now, bear in mind, as of this moment tonight, we are not talking about the override number. That's a separate discussion. The question is whether we even take that next step. I mean, the first step was calling the meeting, which we had to call the meeting anyway. And the second meeting was placing this article, which is a stopgap that comes with a lot of risks. So to your point, the number, whatever number, that goes on the ballot is another discussion for another evening. Mainly because we have to be done before midnight. Anita.
I agree with Louis. I think anytime we've passed overrides, it has been because there have been specific groups together that come out and file the paperwork for, a committee to support it. We can't do it as employees, but we have the fire brigade that can do it. We have the Friends of the Council on Aging and the Friends of the Library. And with the last override, the library and the Council on Aging got together and they sent flyers to every voter. So it reached the other 80% that didn't reach out to hear the wonderful argument and what Heather was putting forward. So I think if we have those groups, we have a shot at passing one, but it has to be a concerted effort of the public and the Friends groups.
I thought there was somebody here and then.
I just want to say, I think we should be looking at making sure that free cash stays in free cash, because as all the other things we've said here tonight, we're gonna have some rough waters down the road. Hopefully not, but probably towards the latter end of this budget
Yeah,
that we're gonna need money for.
we're in rough waters now.
Yeah, so actually to piggyback off what Anita just said, to give you guys some perspective, right? In 2024, when we did pass the override for $2 million to go right to, I guess general operating, that thing passed by just a little over, it was an 858 yes, 652 no. And that was the year that from everybody I talked to, they had heard so much. They got it in the mail. They were talking to different groups, like those three you just mentioned, right? To give you guys perspective with that, then here for just the first year override out of the three, it was a 208 difference. The yeses were an 833 and the nos were a 1041. So I mean, I could argue maybe in this last year, turnout wasn't. I mean, it was even less than that one we passed a couple years ago. So I think the messaging, as explaining why, like you said, Lou, and also getting every other group to share whatever they can. I mean, and I forgot who said it about the elected, Sheila, you did, right? About the elected officials and what we're limited to do. But I mean, I'll think outside the box to help whatever I can.
Well, I will say something that no one will like to hear, but the prior select board chair did not let us discuss the cut budget enough to be able to let the voters know what they were gonna lose if they didn't vote for it. You have to beat it into everybody what you're gonna lose, and then they make the educated decision. But the previous select board chair did not let us talk about the cut budget.
Town clerk said that we had 1,800 voters in the last election.
Yep.
Out of how many?
7,400.
7,400. So it sounds to me like we kind of fell down on the job. And I give Heather credit for having a series of meetings where she discussed all of these things and put up pointers to what this happens and what that happens and so on and so forth. And I think above and beyond that, we as a town needed to go further in promoting this issue so that people really did have an idea. And Anita came up with suggestions here from different organizations here and within the town to put out flyers and whatnot. So, I mean, I think seriously we've got to look into those type of things and start to promote ourselves better than we're doing.
I suppose the other elephant in the room that needs to be said is that one of the reasons this came up is that it would give us a shot at revisiting some of our events that have had to have been canceled for 4th of July. I don't know how far that would go. From my perspective, that is a nice bonus, but not the goal. For me, the goal is saving our staff and our departments and our services. But here we are. And frankly, the majority of attention we've been getting nationally and internationally, including from WBZ, who went to commercial, has been about that, right, wrong, or indifferent. I think, you know, we've got some originals here, and I think everybody in town knew how proud everybody was in Rutland of our 4 days. And even, I think what we're seeing now is that people who don't even know where Rutland is, and let's face it, if they're barely inside the 495 belt, a lot of times they don't know where Rutland is, but it struck a chord with them. We are small town America. We are in Massachusetts, cradle of liberty. It's a big year. It was a big year for us. I think everybody is in a state of, I guess, I don't want to speak for you, I'm looking at you, Karen, but you know, some of the members, a state of mourning. I don't think mourning is overstating it, frankly. So, yeah, I mean, this came together as again, that, I'm sorry to repeat myself, but that Hail Mary of, well, if every one of these things fell in place the right way, we could save a lot of things all at once. And, you know, if the appetite is not there for it, then we're done. We're gonna close the warrant or you know, call it a day. We still have a couple of articles that we'll focus on, and that'll be it.
It'd be lovely if the news would help us focus on that instead of things that are currently happening.
Sheila,
Yeah.
if Article 4 passes at the special town meeting, it also has to pass at an election, correct?
Article 4 is unfortunately non-binding. A petition cannot call an election, only the select board can call an election.
Okay.
But that gives us, if it passes, that gives us an appetite, a town's appetite.
But
But town meeting gave us a town's appetite.
Gave us mixed messages before.
If I may, for me, I'm not opposed to revisiting the override question. I think that I'm not comfortable putting the free cash and putting all the eggs in the basket that it's going to be a successful outcome. So that's where I guess I'm coming from. And that sounds terrible, and I hate to say that, but I think that the town staff has prepared for the July 1st reductions, and again, I don't wanna see that, but they prepared for that, and to extend, we have letters from staff asking us to not do that. We heard from staff at our last meeting that it's going to be a lot for them to manage in a very tumultuous time anyway, because they're still going to potentially have to make those cuts come August 31st. Where all the work and everything has been done leading up to the July 1st. So I would, and I hate to say this, but consider a subsequent override consideration, but go with the cuts, and then if we need to rehire, restructure, we do it with a successful override vote, and not put pressure on that it's going to happen that way. And I hate to say that, because I don't wanna see any staff go.
Do the selectmen have the appetite to place another article that would reinstate the rest of the town staff that we lost? And so that everybody at town hall and every place else that we lost, that's not on Article 4.
So no, so the petition is very specific
Right,
to
but
departments.
Would you
Again,
guys entertain that?
Yeah, at least for me, if we're gonna go for an override, it's going to be a general government override for the whole town, that's just me. And again, we're not,
So we would have to have another article then.
no,
We could add another article though, and you could fund the rest of the town, and then we could put it on there.
But don't forget, Article 4 passed. Article 4, you appropriated the full town meeting budget at your town meeting on May 9th. It was contingent upon the override. The election is what failed the vote. So your appropriation exists for all town departments, all town employees, and all town services.
We need the override to pass at the general election.
So you need the general election.
You need the key.
The key.
I have a question for the longtime FinCom members, because I think I almost wonder that I'm not objective about this sometimes, and it's why I had asked Heather, she was so good, she got it so fast, for our historicals on free cash, because I'm coming from a place where we were struggling to have any free cash. We were in the negatives a couple of years. I don't remember what we did wrong. We were in the negatives. I mean, we were in a terrible spot after the recession, terrible. And I vividly remember the year where we certified $82,000, and we were so excited. $82,000. And we would go into fall town meeting and spend every single penny because we needed to, because there were things that we desperately needed. And it's only recently that we had gotten a little bit more healthy and started not spending everything in the fall and carrying balances over to the spring, the way a healthy town does. That's outside of my realm of what was normal in Rutland. And so for me, seeing where we are now, which feels just as bad as it did back in 07 and 08 and 10, I struggle with not using our free cash that was certified last year. And that's why. I hope that helps to clarify why I think it's something that maybe I'm not taking as something easy. I know how serious it is, but that it's a possibility.
Well, I think one of the reasons the free cash was so high, was it this year or last year, was because some of there were grants that hadn't been submitted and they were submitted years late, so that grant funding came into us. So it was a windfall.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I'm not even counting that number. I mean, we had a very large, unusually large free cash number. I'm pulling that grant out, and it's still a big, healthy number that we did not have to go into fall town meeting and spend down to the penny, and we used to have to. And
You've been trying to watch that.
of course we have. Yeah, of course we have. And I think that's the point. We had been doing better, and there were things that were going fairly well, and despite that, we're still in a structural deficit no matter what we do, and we're now seeing the fruits of that. Right, we are now in the worst of the spots that we were in 20 years ago. So are we up to 18 years ago? It feels like we're back, and I'm sitting here trying to figure out if we just let things go and try to rebuild or try to save what we've got. That's all.
So I had on the Article 4 one that you went off to the other one before I finished it. I was gonna ask, if this passes, it says assess an additional amount in real estate and personal property taxes. Now, how would that play out? Because if we're at our levy limit, how?
That's why we're saying that is a non-binding petition article. It would not appropriate any funds.
But to
No, I know it wouldn't appropriate any funds, but the way it's written, it directs which way to do it, but I don't have that ability.
Correct, that's why it's non-binding.
Right, okay.
So basically, the whole thing boils down to the override question, whenever we decide to do it.
Yep. But there is no point in doing Article 1 if there is no appetite for an override fast. It's together. It's steps toward a goal. Article 1 is not helpful at all. It's incredibly hurtful if we're not also trying for an override again quickly.
Mike DeVarica, Stevens, just to clarify, because a lot of these things are coming at different directions. So the free cash is to fund for 2 months.
Yep.
The decision for an override, which personally I think is a mistake, because the people already voted no. Not that we don't need it. I do agree with it. It's gonna get worse. There's no question about it. All right? But to use the free cash without even knowing, even if an override could pass, is just gonna wipe out free cash that we have.
Right.
So financially, it's gonna even be worse.
It is the future.
You're putting out a fire with dollar bills.
Exactly.
That's basically what it is. We're throwing cash on top of a bonfire and hoping we put it out.
And that's a mistake. I think that's a mistake. all right? Cause we don't know.
It's
I mean,
irresponsible.
Right. I mean, if you just.
Irresponsible.
It's putting, the
last
best
2 years have been
analogy
the
here is we're throwing cash on a fire. And we're hoping that the cash either puts it out or dwindles by September first.
And that's my point, and I do agree with you, Darren.
It's no good, right?
It's not gonna be good. We're going the wrong way, but the selectmen have to place it or decide to place it. That's not the finance committee's
Well,
job.
that's what I was gonna say, is it is up, I mean, the override is up to the select board. I mean, they have to decide on that. And I do agree with the, you can say that you could go out and try to talk to people and get them to change their minds. My phone's rang off the wall, and I still walk out and talk to people. And the bottom line is they're telling me is they don't want cuts, they want services. But until somebody can come up with an answer and tell them if you don't have the money to afford to do it, and your taxes, are we chasing people out of town? So I'm just saying is that we have to think outside the box, we have to come up with better ideas. We have to hope that the state, which they're not gonna do anything, there's a lot of things that have to come into play. But to start off by getting rid of free cash and putting us even in a worse position without knowing what could happen is even worse. And that is the bigger mistake, I think, at this point. And people are angry, I mean, they voted no, people voted no. Maybe it would be better, but how do you tell those people, sorry, you know? Your vote wasn't good enough, do it again. But don't use free cash. I think that's, to me, that's the biggest issue right now. That just puts us in a bigger bind.
Is that what you're asking about?
Emergency. Do keep it in the bank.
Do you want any opinions? My 2 cents is we shouldn't do ARPA.
Is there a motion to place it? Okay, hearing none, that article comes off the draft. And I believe we might actually be on to the next item on the agenda.
Are you gonna, you have to approve the warrant?
Yep. All right, so can I get a motion to approve the warrant as voted with articles, which of course will be renumbered? Articles 2, 3, and 4 have been placed.
So move, second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Second, aye.
Hold on.
Matt's and I.
And did I. All right, so that's unanimous, thank you. And all right, number 5, we had the consideration of a special election. So as a reminder, this was, at least for the first part of that, it was sort of a stepped basis. We have not placed Article 1. So at this point, everything is as it was after the election, which is we're gonna be seeing cuts July 1. At this point, does the board want to talk about scheduling a special election? Is that something you'd like to do a little later? We obviously have some time now.
For me, I would rather see what the outcome of the special town meeting is, with especially the citizen's petition request.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, I'm not opposed to it, but I think that it needs a lot more additional consideration and conversation, and whether it's a year of this austerity budget, as we can call it, and we look towards a big push for fiscal year 28, or we do something mid-year or something. I don't know, but for me, I think getting a sense from, even though we know the sense of the meeting is often much different than the sense of the ballot.
Agreed.
Right, the next thing on the agenda, we had correspondence, as I think everybody knows, from the sheriff's office. You know, at this time, we should thank everybody that has reached out and offered to help and offered condolences, especially to the Worcester County Sheriff's Office for their offer of support, to our police chief. That offer has been responded to. You know, Lou is a former Holden, I think, FinCom member, so he knows how important it is for boards and committees like ours to support and respect our professional staff. I mean, he knows our parade, he's walked in it for years. For years, he was Abe Lincoln in the parade. That offer to provide the services to the town for the events, it was really generous. I will note just, and this is not about him, just some irony in that he's offering the services of the state-funded sheriff's office when, of course, the structural deficit that we have is because of a lack of state funding on the education side. And so, again, not a Lou issue, but the irony of that did not escape me when the offer was made. But in any case, we thank the sheriff's office for their very generous offer, and we just ask for some time to sort of regroup. We do have a letter, I think it's in your packet, from the 4th of July committee, who has taken all the steps to cancel the things that they knew they needed to cancel and reach out to the vendors that they knew they needed to reach out to. Our 4 days are very special to us, so are our town professional staffs, and I hope moving forward, we're all gonna get through this together, because we have a rough road ahead for sure. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Lou, for that. And then the final thing on our agenda tonight is our update from our town administrator. Heather, thank you so much.
Sorry, can I just, may I just thank the 4th of July committee, because I think all of our professional staff as well, I think they've taken a lot of heat over the 4th of July decision. And for me, it was both public safety, police and fire. Last year during the parade, there was a significant fire EMT need, and the sheriff's department wouldn't help address that, the need of additional EMTs also. So I wanna just make sure that for me it was a collation of everything. And I really wanna thank the 4th of July committee for all the work that you've done. I know you've taken a lot of heat and not kind words from all over the country and the world. And I don't think that that's fair. I think that this was a decision that was clearly communicated going at the end of March, that this was going to be a repercussion of reduction of services. And so I'm sorry that the public as a whole has chosen to be as nasty as they have, and I don't think that that's fair to any of you or any of this professional staff who've taken that heat also, because I think a lot of our town hall and town employees have taken a lot of very unkind sentiments.
Can I say something? I'm like, I've sat here this whole time, I'm going to say something. My name is Karen Greenwood, I live at 7 Breezy Lane. I'm a lifelong resident here in Rutland, ran the parade for 20 years, 4 days. Anybody that's been involved, now some of my committee members are here, some are on the, what do you call that thing, the TV up there, whatever. And this has been the most disheartening experience I've had in my entire life living here in town. Social media sucks, okay? And I want to see more shaking heads that are agreeing with me on that one. They're absolutely right. The nastiness that came in, unprovoked really, if they had listened to why we had to do it. The voters came forward, said no to the override. Staff had to be cut to provide safety for 10 to 20,000 people coming in town, directing the traffic. We are having the smaller town stuff the weekend before, which we had years ago when I was a kid growing up and stuff. It kind of got out of proportion with the fireworks and stuff. The parade's always been a part of it. I'm questioning because I talked to the sheriff the morning the letter came out and told him we canceled everything. We had to. We were under time restraints. We've been planning all this stuff since February, and suddenly you realize you're not gonna have the staff supporting you, whether it be fire, police, EMTs, dispatch, whoever. We had to make the decision to cancel the parade, cancel the vendors, whether there was those 10 trucks down there at the ball field during the fireworks. I had to call the grand marshals to tell them they're not gonna be the grand marshals. Had to call the judges who were gonna judge the parade. So we took care of that, and because we had voted on it on our May 13th meeting, We had to make a decision. You know, what are we putting out there? So whoever got nasty about this and, you know, started disparaging all of us and any staff here, really, everybody's had to take a hit from these, they're outsiders, okay? I truly do not believe that the Rutland people would be that nasty. Some were, because you know the names, but if they were anonymous, you'd have no idea. So the question I have for you is, am I understanding Lou knows we're not doing the parade, so maybe they should come out with something public? It's not happening. We do not have time to call back all the things that have been canceled. And personally, me and the other members of the committee, we've lost interest. We'll do the events the weekend before, but the way this stuff came at us, I'm not interested. And I told you, I'm a lifelong resident, did the parade for 20 years. The committee's not doing the parade, so however that results in what the higher-ups do.
Thank you for all you've done, Karen. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You didn't deserve the heat. And there was a lot of
Very
people
disheartening.
There was a lot of people who threw logs on the heat. You know,
Yeah.
It's to keep myself out of trouble.
Newspapers out of London, the UK Mail, Ragmag out of London. Really, people? How did they know about this? Who put that word out? Somebody's got connections.
Thank you, Karen.
That's social media.
I hate it.
I agree with Karen in the fact that I've lived in this town since day 5 when Mom brought me home from the hospital, okay? I've seen a lot of 4th of Julys. I've seen a lot of activities that have gone on. I've seen a lot of things that just are made Rutland what Rutland is, okay? And now, all of a sudden, I guess according to social media, of which I'm not a member of in any manner, shape, or form, but have been informed about it by others, that, you know, there was an awful lot of negativism out there about an override. So that's why I say I don't think that the town really did its job in promoting the override as necessary and explaining just exactly what it is. Town administrator made a very good effort at it. And I don't know how many people, if she has any idea of how many people attended all those sessions, but you know, it's just one of these things that we need to pick things up and get things going. And you know, it's something that, for lack of better words, we've been kicking the can down the road for too long. And it's time that, you know, we started reversing the direction.
Yeah, okay.
Heather, is there any way that we could address what happens with the donations account so that that is out and public and clear?
Would you like to make it part of your update?
You can take it.
Right.
Go ahead.
Thanks.
I mean, I'll supplement, but.
I know that some of it is currently spent.
Yeah, we recognize that that has been a hot point for a lot of people, and I have to say, I personally kind of pushed back, and Heather is a witness, on our attorney to make sure that we were really doing everything that was correct, and it is correct. MGL is very clear that when you make a donation to a town for a specific purpose, that money is not a refundable thing, because in many cases the money is not traceable, whether it was a cash donation or whatever. What is very clear is that when the money is given for a purpose, it will continue to be used for that purpose. And much as we have heard rightly from Karen Greenwood that they need to take a little bit of a break after putting on our smaller community events, I think pretty much, I would hope, all of us in this room are certainly expecting that the 4th of July is going to be back and better than ever. And we are so grateful. I'm speaking, I think you should speak to this, but so grateful for the years of support, whether it was somebody that gave $1 somewhere at somebody's, you know, little can that they had out, or was a sponsor at a bigger level. In some years, I think not all of that money was necessarily expended. It was carried over to another year. It really depended every year on the amount of donations that they took in. All of that is public record, it is available to you, and I think maybe we just didn't phrase it right. It's not that we weren't, it's that we couldn't. Unlike a nonprofit, a municipality is a different being, and it needs to follow MGL. And I don't know that I explained that as well as Heather could, but I gave it a shot.
I think it's great. I think that the only thing that I would follow up and say that in very clear, that the very act of creating that refund is the violation of the MGL. So we can only accept the funds under the provision of the MGL that allows us to use them for that specific purpose. And that specific purpose is the 4th of July events. Not just the fireworks, not just the parade, it is all of the events. And that even to create that reimbursement is essentially an expense that is outside what the money was given for. And again, to all of the other points that Sheila made, that the funds simply are retained. The average donation was about $25. Yes, there were some larger donations for the businesses. As we all know, we don't have a lot of businesses in our community to have made those larger donations. So it's really something to be said that this program has been funded for as many decades as it has on the smaller donations. There's an awful lot of $25 that has been given over the years. That account has less than $50,000 in it. So there were some estimates, I think I saw on social media, that we were carrying hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is, right, that is not the case. So if there's specific questions on that, I'm happy to answer, but hopefully that.
No, she's moving to the Bahamas.
I had a
She bought
question.
it.
And you may not be able to answer it, but those companies that gave a sponsorship donation, any level, next year or the year after, whenever 4th of July comes back, are they gonna have that level, or is that money just gonna get washed into a general fund, into the 4th of July fund, but there's no recognition to that company that may have donated a considerable amount of money?
So I would think I would defer that to the 4th of July committee, but I would assume.
I would assume yes.
Yes.
Right now, I'm not answering, all this stuff. I know exactly what you're saying. Let's just say we all closed our eyes and we'll pick it up next year, and whoever gave this year will be recognized. I mean, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the best outcome of a bad situation.
John Fitzgerald, 20 Watson Lane. I've only been on the 4th of July committee for 31 years, so. But to that, I mean, Ben Barakian is the chair of the committee.
And a fine chair he is.
And he got really slammed through all this, every which way, as a town employee, as the chair of the committee.
That's your guy.
Just embarrassing. But, we make notes of those larger donations into the meeting minutes, and I don't see why there wouldn't be a record of that. So if it does continue the years to come, I would think that sponsorship level would remain intact.
Sadly, that's what some human beings do. They sit back and throw dirt. And you ask them to help and they wouldn't get up. They wouldn't get up and help at all. It's easy to throw dirt. They're scum, in my opinion.
Cowards.
Heather.
My words,
Cowards, that's a better word.
Okay, so we're gonna move into the town administrator's report. Thank you, everybody, for sticking it out. I promise I'll make this the least painful part of it. We'll start with, we'll stay on theme. As you know, the majority of the 19 employees that are facing either job loss through layoff, workforce reduction, or hours reduced are part of collective bargaining agreements. So we've been meeting for the past couple of weeks, making sure that we are honoring those collective bargaining agreements as negotiated. The process is ongoing, but everybody is very understanding and respectful of that process. Come July 1, we will have some noticeable changes to the hours. and that the buildings, the public buildings will be available to residents or to the public in general. We're looking at new hours of operation for the town hall and the town annex. The building would be open Monday and Tuesday from 8 AM to 4:30 PM. Open by appointment only on Wednesday and Thursday, and we would remain closed as we have been on Fridays. Those days were selected for several reasons. One is that the most obvious, they're our busiest days. That is generally when our tax bills are due, and when we can best accommodate the residents after the weekend, you know, and now even the longer weekend with any needs that they have Monday and Tuesday. It also maintains our current warrant practice and schedule, so there'll be no changes or modifications to that. And then I guess third, perhaps as a consolation for those employees who have had their hours reduced so much so that they'll need another job, it does allow them that consecutive days at the end of the week to be able to find alternative or additional work. We're also working with the senior center, the community center, senior center on those hours. Those will be 9 AM to 3 PM Monday through Thursday with a half day on Friday. The department head, the senior center director will be a reduced staff. She'll be reduced to 32 hours and is losing her outreach. So it's to be determined what programs will be impacted by that, but those will be those hours. The library, the trustees are meeting later this week and will establish those hours. We will post all of this, and we've created an FAQ document that we will also post so that residents can refer to that as to how they can still manage their municipal, their town business in light of these very dramatic changes. Any thoughts, questions?
Just a question, I believe you do have it here under how do I make an appointment, cause that was my questions. How do they make appointments?
So all the ways that they would do so now, which is they could call and leave a, they could call and hopefully we'll be here on the Mondays and Tuesdays to take those calls. And then obviously by email, they can reach out. Certainly we have our social media. We all know that we have our social media now. So the traditional ways, we would expect them to reach out.
Okay. My question was, they don't go through your office in order to make an appointment, they go directly to the departments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does that affect posting meeting times?
So posting meetings will still occur. The assistant town clerk will be in the office Monday and Tuesday. Any meeting requests that come in on Wednesday, Thursday will be managed by the town clerk, whether when we can do all of our meeting postings remotely as well. So even if the meeting comes in on a non-traditional work time, we should be able to get that posted. And I believe that is also covered in our FAQ.
Heather, if and when library hours get reduced, is that going to affect any locations?
So the trustees have not met yet.
Right.
However, preliminary conversations with the trustees seem to lead me to believe that the meeting hours, after hours, will not be significantly restricted. Certainly the cable PEG access has access to the building after hours. So we'll continue to have those conversations about how we can make sure that boards and committees are able to maintain a somewhat reasonable meeting schedule. There may be days where it's not available, but I don't anticipate it'll be as detrimental as we originally had thought. Thank you, that's a really good question, Lindsay.
Actually, to bridge off of that question, a lot of community groups here, ranging from both of the scout groups and all the athletic groups, and really anybody else who just came to the library as some nonprofit to meet. So, has there been any consideration of what that'll do for the library And I heard some rumors a while back about expanding our Center on Aging location,
Yeah, so I think that
senior
what,
center.
yeah, I'm gonna have to wait and hear from the trustees after they meet. I don't wanna speak to them. This is obviously gonna be one of their primary conversations. And so we'll update how it'll impact community groups, once they've had a chance to make sure that they're all in agreement with how that works. As far as any renovations to our senior center that could make it more accessible, and also create the technology opportunities that we need, TBD. So we're aware that we need more options, to be able to accommodate additional reductions in budgets and perhaps access, so acutely aware. Thank you.
When is the meeting?
Hmm?
When is the library trustee meeting?
It's either tomorrow night or Wednesday night. Anita, do you know?
Tomorrow.
Are they tomorrow night?
Usually, yeah,
Thank you.
usually Tuesdays.
Okay, and then maybe just a little good news, the one-stop grant application is open. That is a state grant program that there's probably 10, 12 grant programs that all are channeled through this one program. We are submitting 3 grant applications. One is for a new housing production plan. One is for a zoning bylaw rewrite, and then the other is a STRAP grant, which is a small town road reconstruction program. You can apply to up to $1 million if you can identify a road that has regional access and regional import. So we have selected 1.9 miles on Wachusett Street in Glenwood, from Route 68 to Main Street, that will apply for mill and overlay for that. So those, believe it or not, we were able to, in the midst of all of this, eke out a couple of grant applications.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I get a motion from the select board for adjournment if there's nothing else?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Wait a minute.
Second, I.
That's enough.
Hold on.
Goodbye, thank you.
Good job, Board of Selectmen, it was a great meeting.
Darren, motion to adjourn? Yep.
Select board, I think we need to sign the warrant.
Wanna hold on for 1 minute?
Let's not rush it there.
We'll let the room clear and then, or if anybody wants to stick around.
You don't have to get up and go to work tomorrow.
I've been home at Tuesday.
Birds or fish or something.
So. If I have to. Oh, I know.
I gotta
Something to do.
I know.
We do a great job in getting grants that we could be doing it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Agree, you have no idea.
Federal, state, and private. The week after we have.
Yeah.
So they're out there.
For sure.
I think they're. Salad here is a salad here.
No, it's just like.
I'm good.
Great.
Paul, up somewhere.
We just got.
I'm thinking something like that in the picture.
Because I asked about
Program
you.
for veterans day. So, I mean, to blow it,
On that side. You're still an Oreo, but you're in,
yeah,
Whatever the nurse is saying.
I kind of figured,
Yeah.
I figured that much. That's why I needed,
It's your job to do the best you can for the kids. I'm not against it, it happened, it's not, I'm not against it, I'm just, what I gotta do
Hi,
is.
is there anyone that I can speak with on camera about the decisions that were made?
beginning like, hey, it's something like that, couldn't do it.
Just in private, hey, they do now.
So the finance committee, let me slide around here,
I gotta go.
my old body.
I 100% do not wanna speak to any.
The finance committee,
No, on the.
I was informed by our executive secretary that if we want
to put this on the 16th, our recommendations, we have to vote on it tonight because it's going to print. Is that something we wanna deal with tonight, or do we wanna push it off and we can have a recommendations page? I think that we wanna, speak to these issues, if it's not tonight, as soon as possible. But if we don't speak to it tonight, we will not be on the printed paperwork that's given out at the town meeting.
The select board didn't do that already. They're not meeting until the 8th, so.
If I may, the warrant is being posted tomorrow. So if you would like your recommendations included on the posted warrant, that those decisions would have to be made tonight.
Okay,
We could still put it on the document that would be handed out.
yeah, we're good, all right, so, while we got a minute, next week, Thursday, is that good for everybody?
That's next week.
Next week is the, I don't have my phone, someone with a phone, maybe.
June 11th?
Next week is the 11th on Thursday.
Should we, everybody good with the 11th?
Lydia's not available.
I'm not gonna be here on the 11th either.
When are we trying to do on Thursday?
Thursday is the 11th.
No, Thursday this week.
I don't think we can go this week.
Yes, we
Thursday,
can. Is there
okay?
enough
If it gets
time?
enough
Put it
time.
tomorrow.
If it gets put in tomorrow, we'll be fine.
Yeah, this week's gonna be wrecked anyway, so,
He's not also available on Thursday,
he's,
just so you know.
yeah, maybe we can get him to call in,
Not on Thursday, not this Thursday,
okay,
for sure,
for sure, for sure,
for sure, for sure.
okay. I'll take a recommendation from someone.
Well,
Do we need to do,
Tommy can be here, can you be here this Thursday, Tommy?
Thursday?
This Thursday, the 4th,
Yeah.
I'd like to recommend the 4th, does everybody agree with that?
I agree. I'm okay with that.
And then we can talk about it. I think that, okay, all those in favor of the 4th for the next meeting at 6 p.m. in some, hopefully this room or some room close to this room. So signify by say aye.
Aye.
Okay, good, unanimous. As to anything else that happened tonight, wow. And, let's talk about everything on Thursday. I'll give Tamika an agenda for this Thursday. I'll talk to her tomorrow. Does anyone have anything they'd like to have included other than the articles that we're gonna talk about?
You can put the minutes on it for the 9th. That won't take long to type up.
And my feeling, and I'm gonna make it known while we got a minute here, I don't think that, I think we should put all the articles as stands, Darren's opinion, and let the town vote their conscience. I am, even though I, disagree with Mrs. Haber about the legality of what we did, I don't have a problem with what's going on I don't have a problem with what's going on, the warrant. I just would like you to all consider that, and then we'll talk about it on Thursday. But it is what it is right now, and I don't, as much as.
Big after the town meeting.
He was on.
I mean, we haven't, so I was a little concerned.
So the real fact, alls I wanna do is, you guys can have a different opinion about that, but that's Darren's opinion. Tommy?
So the other, you just said things on the agenda, can we have one line item there for, so we have the next meeting and lay out several of the things we talked about in the last several months that we were gonna work on after the town meeting. Just, we can kind of list out what we talked about, and we can come up with a game plan
Sure, let's
to
come up with
address
some
those.
agenda items for the next meeting.
We don't have to talk about, just put them down and say, okay, we're gonna attack this one in July, or this one in September, whatever.
Just
Whatever.
Make sure that the new
Yes,
gets invited.
yes. Do you have something?
Did you get the email address?
I knew, I just wanted to make sure she was invited to Thursdays too.
The way the article is written on the warrant for the Wachusett does not have the new amount that the school is asking for.
Right,
So
I've
that does-
made a note
okay.
to put it in the explanation portion.
It needs to be in the article, not the explanation.
It does not need to be in the article. The article came directly from town council, because that's the amount that you have to vote. You're not voting, you can amend Article 7, but you've already approved the 17 million,
Okay,
whatever.
383.
Because what failed was the part that was conditional on the override.
Even though it's a new amount?
Even though it's a new amount, because all you're doing is appropriating the difference between what you voted and was approved.
So can
Okay,
we,
so the article,
so I,
the explanation. will-
The explanation definitely has
for
to
the
have.
dumbest guy in the room, I need to know on Thursday night exactly what we're voting for on that article, and then I'll be good. I'm not anti any of these things. The people will vote, and you guys, we'll have a group we'll have a group meeting
But
about
that's
it.
what we're gonna talk about Thursday night.
Correct.
Right, okay.
I'm just, Darren is stating.
Yep.
I'm not up for the fight again, all over again. Go ahead.
Since you called me out, I just feel like I need to explain.
Go ahead.
I don't have an issue with the number being broken up. I think that ultimately somewhere in there you should have said the total number and then said, we're breaking it down this way, but I can get beyond that. The problem I had is that on the override itself, the town override said it was for municipal budget and did not say the schools. Now you look at any of the Prop 2.5 stuff, and it says in the law that you have to call out exactly what you're using it for. And our override did not include the schools. So I think, personally, not a lawyer, that if the town election did not say that it had the schools involved, and town meeting, we made the schools involved, we're voting on two very separate things. And we also had people who had early voted, who did not know that the town meeting made it contingent, and so they weren't voting on the right thing. So do I think it was illegal? Yes, I do, but not because of the way the number was presented. Okay, that's my 2 cents.
Mr. Shell.
All the numbers we voted are part of the municipal budget. The municipal budget includes all the numbers. The only reason, and the town has traditionally put those items different is so they can be discussed. At the different amounts, et cetera, the different items, in case people had questions. It's been done several different ways over all these different years, but generally speaking, that was separated out so that people could have discussions about it.
It does not include the school. It does not. The municipal budget that you guys work with, that line does not include the school. They're two separate articles. They have to be articled separately.
This discussion really doesn't make a difference. It failed, so.
No, but.
Pretty good to know
I was
for
only
future, though.
clarifying, I was only
Oh, no, no,
clarifying
no.
because I was called
Clarifying that the
called out.
lawyer said it was what it was correct, so.
I'm gonna say that the lawyer, whether we agree or disagree on what the lawyer said, that's the stance we took, and that's what we did, why we did it. And the only thing we did is made a contingency of the override passing. That's the only thing we did to the school budget.
But you understand the difference is that the issue is not about the school budget. The issue is about the election, the validity of the ballot at the election.
So we did.
And I'm sorry to interject.
So we did have,
It's just-
so we spent a lot of time with our town council reviewing exactly that
And money.
question, right?
And money.
And money, and we were confident that it would hold up. If the override passed, we were confident that it would hold up, that we would be able to make that appropriation. So regardless of, everybody pays different attorneys, and you get the opinion that you have, asked for. So we were confident with that. We wouldn't have moved forward with it if we didn't believe and hadn't been given assurances that it was perfectly legal and legitimate.
So we'd like to.
So respectfully,
I'll extend an invitation that you guys come up on Thursday night, if you'd like.
We'll be at graduation.
Oh, that's right. Happy graduation. But, we'd like, I'm sure somebody can be
This school
here.
get out.
Depends on where you go to school, 2 weeks from.
Either the 23rd or the 24th.
Yeah, it's a
Thank you.
ways out.
I just wanted to know. I was like, when did the school buses stop? That's what I want to know.
So. This is like the worst year of being a volunteer on a finance committee ever. And with any one of these people in this town that have been beaten up.
School
I don't have
committee's
that, what's that?
So school committee's fun too.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure, you guys get paid a lot of money though.
Yeah, it's fun.
So, I don't have the will to fight this fight again. My committee may, Darren is beat up. I'm tired of this. I am gonna recommend we just move forward with it. Happy graduation. You guys will hear about it first thing Friday morning, or if you give me a text, I'll text you a message on Thursday night.
Thursday night, talking
Yeah,
about.
I could text you, whatever.
What time
Both
is the
of you.
meeting? I'm sorry, on
What's
Thursday.
that?
Is it 7 or 6?
Six. But I'm not gonna fight this fight again.
One other note. Tommy, you mentioned something a few minutes ago about some things to work on in the future year. One of them, I think, should be, and this came up when you is Michelle the business manager's name? Michelle. When you came to present the budget, we talked a little bit about the fact that we have not yet found the right button to push to try and get the formula revisited down at the State House. And it doesn't appear to be that our state legislator or state senator or rep have had any luck, because we've met with them numerous times. I think that whether it's with us, the school committee, administration, maybe we should work on trying to find that right button to push going forward. And I think Michelle had hinted that she might have some interest on it, and it's in the back of my brain to email her at some point, but
I'd be happy to partner, absolutely. Whatever we can do is that, because we are, I think we're one of the best cases out there for people getting hurt by the formula.
This is, it's tight, yeah.
It's also a really big button and needs a lot of people on it to
Mm-hmm.
push.
I think it's a small button. We haven't found it yet, but if once it is, let's
Needle in a
let's make it
It's
swell.
gonna take a lot of people to push that small button. The only other thing too is we gotta figure a way, I think this finance committee, during our discussions, tried to include the override to say schools or split it or do a couple different options. And when we tried that, we wanted to do anything we could to make this favorable. And we got beat up pretty bad all the way through the process. We got shouted down, because I think the best lobby for the school is to, some people don't agree with me, is to make it their own separate article or whatever override, because they can make it work. If the schools can make it work. So, that being said, I know everybody's not happy with everything that happened. It's bygones, we gotta move forward. Let's move forward and make this fly.
And we all have to work together.
We all have to work together, and I think the schools has done what they can.
Agreed.
And I appreciate everything they do. But we gotta come up with a better way of presenting this package to everybody. Because when I hear on social media from my cousin in New Jersey that the finance committee did the chairman of the finance committee did this, I'm like, are you kidding me? How did I get looped into this mess? We didn't, so, with that.
But I think in that regards, I think part of the discussion should also be more collaboration with the select board, because we were definitely
shut down.
Yes.
And not necessarily so professionally.
And not by the schools. By the way, the schools came to us earlier than ever and told us what was going on. We got everything
But
we
I
wanted to
think
do.
in order for this to work, we have to work, I mean, it's like this meeting was scheduled and we weren't asked if this was an acceptable timeframe for the finance committee to meet. The town meeting was scheduled. We weren't asked. Randy was asked if he can make it, but the finance committee wasn't. And in the,
Darren answered for the finance committee at the select board meeting.
I did.
you did for the 16th?
Yes.
I said it was acceptable because we have to do it.
Okay, but the thing is, we used to have that collaboration with, will that work? Will you have a quorum? There used to be that conversation.
Darren did, she's correct. Darren did answer the question.
Okay.
Whether we had we didn't have Darren, what do you think about this day? We're gonna go on the 16th.
Right, so, I mean,
And he also texted Randy, so that's
Yeah,
why
and that's
those
how we
two
get
came
the
in together.
moderator.
Yes.
but in the end, we used to have collaboration.
Well, I think the only way that this, and let's end it, and as soon as I'm done, we can have a motion to adjourn, because it's almost 9 o'clock. I think that what we gotta do is, we also gotta think of the future. If this, it's not gonna be good.
No?
And hopefully the schools can keep their budget as low as they can, and I don't know if they'll be able to, but we'll see
He
what
already
happens.
told us he can't.
He can't, well, it's gonna go up a little.
And I'm happy, just so everyone knows, look, if it means we're meeting in the summer or the fall, whenever it's helpful for us to come and talk about some of this stuff, because I think advocacy, I think we got some good, I think we can.
And I'll reiterate it one other time, we are not against the schools, we're just, we're.
I'm gonna be honest, I said it tonight, I don't feel that way.
Okay.
I think there was, so.
We're all, me and you are good, and everybody's, I don't want anybody walking out here mad at us.
We're just trying to save our town.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, we'll see you Thursday night.